Chapter 165. The destruction of the Frosty Demon Sealing Tower drew the attention of almost everyone on the battlefield. Almost everyone held their breaths as they stared intently at the figure behind the white mist. And Lin was no exception. He supported the severely wounded Xianyuan Qing as he stared nervously at the bottom of the crater, wondering what kind of monster with 3 heads and 6 arms would emerge from it. Soon, the figure appeared in everyone's field of vision. And Lin's mouth gaped open as he stood rooted to the spot, completely dumbfounded. Holy F***ck, why is it still him? The figure that walked out was a handsome male. He looked a little thin and frail, and he bore a 90% resemblance to the male who had self-detonated. Aside from the fact that his hair had changed from silver to black, the two of them were practically identical. Many of the young disciples of the sects were also rooted to the spot, unable to understand why the Frosty Demon Sealing Tower, which had stood in the sect for hundreds of years, would be suppressing an extremely frail-looking human. Only some of the sect's elders had solemn expressions as they stared vigilantly at the handsome man. The male rubbed his slightly blurry eyes as he looked around, completely rooted to the spot. The bodies of the 10,000 spirits' immortal sect disciples and the bodies of the snow maidens lay silently on the ground. Those who were still alive had all stopped fighting and turned to look at him. Only the earth-shattering golden sect protecting formation and the deafening rumbles in the sky indicated that an earth-shattering battle was taking place here. So that's how it is. A bitter smile appeared on the male's face as he came to his senses. He turned his gaze toward the battlefield with a look of pity in his eyes. To think that the Heavenly Dawn Peak would end up like this. An elder of the 10,000 spirits' immortal sect stood out and yelled, "Are you Qin Qinghang or Bing Fu?" And Lin blinked in confusion. Qin Qinghang Bing Fu? Isn't this AF** King Free Point question? This person is clearly a male, so what the hell is Bing Fu? If I had to choose, I would choose Qin Qinghang. However, the male on the battlefield was in a daze as a conflicted expression appeared on his face. His dusty memories were slowly unraveled, and the past gradually surfaced in his mind. His name was Qin Qinghang, and he was a once-in-a-thousand-years prodigy of the 10,000 spirits' immortal sect. She reached spirit nurturing stage at 17, soul formation stage at 21, and reached the soul formation pinnacle stage before turning 100 years old. She was the most talented cultivator in the kingdom of the 9 state. At that time, he was so high-spirited and peerless. However, during a battle against the Snow Maiden army, he was forced into a corner by the palace leaders of the 3 holy palaces. This battle had shattered his physical body, but because of the life-saving equipment, his soul had a chance to escape. However, at the moment of his escape, his divine soul was on the verge of being destroyed by the absolute frost sword. In the end, just as his divine soul was about to dissipate, it fell into the lotus pond. Yes, just as you thought. He transformed the lotus root into a physical body and was reborn. Hey, wake up! A crisp sound rang out. The man opened his eyes with great difficulty and looked around in a daze. Then, his vision fixed on the delicate and adorable girl. The man shook his head. He felt a sharp pain in his head and groaned in pain. Hey, tell me the truth. Are you a man or not? The girl placed her hands on her hips and leaned forward. Her silver hair brushed against his face, and a faint fragrance wafted into his nose. Her golden eyes stared curiously into the man's eyes. I'm a man. The man felt a sharp pain in his head. However, there was no mistaking that he was a man. The girl giggled. I knew it. There's a mushroom and 2 eggs between your crotch, so you're definitely a man. The man's expression froze. He looked down at his crotch, and only then did he realize that he wasn't wearing any clothes. His heart jolted with shock, and he hurriedly covered his crotch. You saw everything? The girl nodded. Of course. I did some research on it. Research? The man's body trembled as he gritted his teeth. You? How could you act like a pervert? The girl's brows furrowed slightly. I'm acting like a pervert? If this is considered acting indecently, then why did you suddenly appear naked next to my lotus pond? In that case, it's obviously you who acted indecently first, okay? The man's lips trembled, but he didn't know how to retort. What's your name, man? The girl asked. Name? A blank expression appeared on the man's face. His mind was completely blank. Aside from some instincts and common sense, he couldn't think of anything else. You don't even know your name? The girl wrinkled her adorable little nose as a contemplative expression appeared on her face. How about, I call you Bing Fu? The man's eyes widened. I'm a man. The girl's golden eyes also widened as a vast might erupted from her body. From now on, you're a woman. Your name is Bing Fu, and you're my toy, Mengji, understand? The man could feel the divine might enveloping his entire body. He felt as if he were facing an extremely mighty being, and he instantly wilted. Yes, you're always right. Thus, the girl named Mengji received a toy by the name of Ice Lotus on this day. Mengji was very happy. She had a toy that she couldn't find a second one on the entire continent, a living man. Just the thought of it made her feel good. Bing Fu put on the blue robe that Mengji had given him. Even though Bing Fu's appearance was delicate, the robe still made him appear a little too heroic. In order to make him appear more feminine, Mengji installed a pair of fake breasts for him. Mengji rolled around on the ground with laughter at the sight of Bing Fu's massive chest. She was very pleased with her toy. Bing Fu didn't have much of a problem with this. His past was like a blank piece of paper, and all he had to do now was survive. In order to survive here, he took on another identity, which was as Mengji's personal servant. After some investigation, he learned that the continent he was on was called the Holy Glacial Land. This was a place where the entire continent was made up of women, which was why Mengji insisted that he become a woman. Here, men could only be ice sculptures. Mengji's identity was not simple. There were 36 holy palaces in the Holy Glacial Lands, and she was the daughter of one of the Holy Palace's palace leaders. She was an extremely revered person, and she also possessed the noble bloodline of the Holy Monarch. Her future was limitless. With Mengji's protection, Bing Fu's life was quite enjoyable. He would cultivate the Ice Heart mantra with Mengji, eat some spirit herbs, and occasionally go out to hunt. The days passed by one after another. One day, Bing Fu was lying on a huge rock, basking in the sun with contentment. He sighed with emotion. It was so easy to be a toy. Aside from doing some of the daily chores that a servant would do, he lived a life where he stood above all others. He could enjoy delicious food at any time, and he could learn any high-level cultivation method he wanted. It had to be said that he was starting to like this place. This place was completely heaven. At this moment, Mengji walked over in her white dress and spoke in a gentle but authoritative voice. Toy, what are you thinking about? Bing Fu's eyes narrowed into a smile. Reporting to Master, I'm thinking about when you'll stop calling me a toy. Mengji flared up with rage upon hearing this. A toy is something that lasts for a lifetime. Even if I break them, that won't change the fact that you're my toy. Bing Fu's lips twitched. Why did that sound so terrifying? Mengji wrapped her slender arms around Bing Fu's neck with a smile. I'm definitely going to become the High Priestess of the Holy Glacial Lands in the future. That way, no one will be able to restrict me, and I'll be able to do whatever I want. Oi, toy, what do you want to do in the future? Bing Fu smiled as he listened to Mengji's words. I'm already your toy, so what else can I do? Of course I'm going to stay by your side. Mengji lowered her head as a faint blush appeared on her face. Perfect answer. Come, let's go to the treasure room. Master will reward you with a spirit fruit. Bing Fu chuckled. He was already very familiar with sucking up to Mengji, so it didn't take much effort for him to do so. Now, another spiritual fruit was in his hands. Chapter 166. Time flew by. 100 years later, Meng Ji and Bing Fu's names resounded throughout the entire Holy Glacial Land. They both reached the Return to Void stage, and became the youngest Holy Palace leaders in the Holy Glacial Land. Meng Ji also had her wish fulfilled, and became a candidate for the position of High Priestess. On this day, she arrived at the Green Lotus Holy Palace with an elated expression and relayed the news to Bing Fu. "Toy, I'm now a candidate for the position of High Priestess. I'm one step closer to my dream of doing whatever I want." Meng Ji had already become a lithe and graceful woman, and the cold expression on her face melted away at the sight of that familiar figure, giving her the appearance of a young girl. Bing Fu was still as delicate as ever, but his aura had become even more vast and profound. After seeing the woman in front of him, he stretched out his hand and flicked the woman's smooth and white forehead. He smiled and said, "Don't be too happy too early. Aren't there 3 candidates? If you don't get chosen, don't come running here crying." Meng Ji wrinkled her nose with an annoyed expression. "Oi! Is this how you talk to your master? Hurry up and praise me." Bing Fu, master is truly overflowing with talent, a peerless genius, a peerless beauty. A faint smile appeared on Meng Ji's face as she stared at the man before her. Her golden eyes, which had lost their solemn aura, were now filled with a captivating light. "One day, I will ascend to the position of the High Priest, and then, I will openly let you appear in front of the world as a man." Before she could even realize her dream, a massive war erupted across the entire Holy Glacial Lands. The Snow Maidens had no choice but to expand into the kingdom of the 9 states. The 50,000 heavenly soldiers of the Celestial Court and the 50,000 cultivators of the 10,000 spirits immortal sect defended the Wind Plains state against the invasion of the Snow Maidens. This war caused the sky to change color and the earth to sink. Bing Fu encountered an extremely fearsome opponent, the peak leader of the 10,000 spirits immortal sect's Heavenly Dawn Peak, Chen Wanghao. Chen Wanghao wielded the demon sealing pagoda, and wind and clouds surged as he unleashed countless sealing spell techniques imbued with peerless divine might. Bing Fu battled with him for an entire day and night, but there was still no clear victor. The more Chen Wanghao battled, the more peculiar his expression became. After sending Bing Fu flying with the demon-suppressing pagoda, he finally couldn't help but ask, "Son?" Bing Fu gripped the celestial wolf-slaying sword and was just about to continue attacking when he was startled by these words. Then, he flew into a rage. "Tui! You stinking old Taoist, don't try to take advantage of me." Boom, boom, boom. The two of them fought again. 2 hours passed and Chen Wanghao spoke again. "There's no mistake. Although your appearance has changed a lot, and you've become more delicate and your breasts are bulging, this divine soul aura that is connected to your bloodline cannot be fake. Son, I am your father. I'm your father." Bing Fu roared as his celestial wolf-slaying sword glowed with a purple light, condensing into thousands of wolves that pounced toward Chen Wanghao. Boundless golden light erupted from the demon sealing tower, crushing over 1,000 wolves into nothingness. Chen Wanghao charged toward Bing Fu, slicing open his palm. Blood sprayed out and countless mysterious runes appeared on his palm. "Is your memory sealed? Then let my blood essence awaken your memories. Die!" Bing Fu stabbed his celestial wolf-slaying sword toward Chen Wanghao. To his surprise, Chen Wanghao made no attempt to dodge. The sword pierced through Chen Wanghao's body, and at this moment, his blood-stained palm also slammed toward Bing Fu's head. Boom! Terrifying shockwaves proliferated outward. Bing Fu's eyes widened as a mysterious power connected to his bloodline broke through his mind. Countless memories began to surface in his mind, and he felt as if his head were about to explode. "Ah!" Bing Fu half knelt to the ground as he screamed. Right at this moment, countless gigantic ice dragons began to pounce toward Chen Wanghao. "How dare you hurt Bing Fu? I'm going to kill you!" Meng Ji wore a phoenix coronet on her head, and her peerlessly beautiful face was filled with rage. Her golden eyes were imbued with boundless might, and they enshrouded the entire sky, making all beings bow before her. At this moment she was the most powerful monarch in this world. The demon sealing tower opened up an enchantment barrier that spanned over 10,000 feet to keep the ice dragons at bay. Each and every collision caused the earth to cave in and tremble violently. However, Chen Wanghao gritted his teeth as he waited for his son to awaken. I'm Chen Qinghang? Moments later, Bing Fu clutched his head as he murmured to himself. Chen Wanghao's body trembled with joy. That's right, your name is Chen Qinghang. Haha, my son is finally back. No, it should be my daughter now. But that's all right, you can be called Chen Qingqing from now on. Chen Wanghao came to his senses and immediately added, Bing Fu, father, I'm a man, my breasts are fake. Chen Qinghang heaved a faint sigh. Chen Wanghao stared blankly at Chen Qinghang with joy and excitement in his eyes. Haha, you're finally calling me father again. It's been a long time since I've heard you call me that. Bing Fu, what did you just say? Meng Ji stared blankly at the man kneeling on the ground with incredulity etched on her face. It was as if an important pillar of support had collapsed, and her body began to tremble uncontrollably. This fact was placed in front of her, and she was unable to accept it. Right at this moment, a huge golden palm descended from the sky, covering an area of 30,000 feet in radius. Terrifying vital energy surged like a vast ocean, and the entire sky was transformed into a dazzling golden color. The space around the palm was sealed, and no one was able to evade it. Die, demonic woman! A voice exploded like thunder. Boom! The ice and frost dragon of several thousand feet in length was pulverized by the power of the palm, and Meng Ji was also crushed into the ground. The ground began to crack open, and everything was reduced to dust by the palm. It's the Grand Elder, Lord Tianwu. That demonic woman is dead for sure. Chen Wanghao heaved a sigh of relief with a smile on his face. Meng Ji. Chen Qinghang's heart trembled as he stared at the woman who had been crushed into the ground. Her silver hair was stained with blood, and her body was riddled with wounds as she gritted her teeth and crawled out from the massive palm. She raised her head with difficulty, and she was greeted by the sight of a rain of golden swords raining down from the sky. Each of the golden swords was comparable to a full-force attack from a return-to-void stage mighty figure. They fell like rain, and they were powerful enough to obliterate everything in this world. However, right at this moment, a man in a blue robe appeared in front of her and raised his heavenly wolf-slaying sword. Son, have you gone insane? Chen Wanghao's enraged roar sounded in the distance. Chen Wanghao's roar was instantly drowned out by the violent explosions. A massive, inky black crater was blasted into the ground by the countless swords. After the dust settled, Chen Qinghang was bathed in blood, and he slowly fell backward into Meng Ji's arms. Meng Ji held on to Chen Qinghang with trembling hands as tears flowed from her eyes. Why did you do this for me? Blood trickled down the corners of Chen Qinghang's lips, but a warm smile appeared on his face as he gently wiped away the tears from her face. I don't know. Perhaps it's the instinct of a toy to protect its master. In the sky, Lord Tianwu harumphed coldly and was just about to kill these two demonic women again. However, Chen Wanghao suddenly appeared in front of Chen Qinghang. Please stop, Elder. He's Chen Qinghang, my son. He was bewitched by these demonic women when he lost his memories, and that's why he did such a stupid thing. Can you spare his life? He's Chen Qinghang? Lord Tianwu's expression changed slightly upon hearing this. He looked at the fallen Holy Palace leader, who was bathed in blood, and after a brief moment of thought, he was able to roughly guess what had happened. Chen Qinghang was extremely talented, so it wouldn't be a bad thing if he could return to the right path and return to the sect. Lord Tianwu thought for a moment before continuing, I can spare him from the death penalty, but it's a fact that he became the Holy Palace leader and massacred the disciples of our sect. Chen Wanghao, I order you to bring him back to the sect, and seal him in the Devil Sealing Tower for 1,000 years to atone for his crimes. Also, use the Devil Sealing Tower to erase all of his memories regarding the holy glacial lands. Meng Ji faltered slightly upon hearing Lord Tianwu's words before crushing a mirror in her hand. She stared at Chen Qinghang with deep emotion before gently kissing him on the lips. Chen Qinghang's eyes widened in shock. Then, he felt a warm and soft sensation on his lips. How dare you, demonic woman! Release my son at once! Chen Wanghao roared in rage. If it were some other woman kissing his son, he would accept her as his daughter-in-law. But this woman was the Snow Maiden who had a vendetta against the 10,000 Spirits Immortal sect. How could he tolerate this? Lord Tianwu flicked a finger at Meng Ji, and a golden sword projection tore through the air, instantly reaching her. Whoosh! The sword projection pierced through Meng Ji's body, but it didn't harm her in the slightest. Has the great Empress made a move? Lord Tianwu looked up into the sky with furrowed brows. Meng Ji's body began to become insubstantial. She looked at Chen Qinghang with longing in her eyes as she spoke in a gentle voice. Toy, wait for me, I'll definitely come to find you. No one can take my toy away from me, no one. Tears streamed down Chen Qinghang's face as he shook his head with difficulty. Don't come, just let it end like this, don't come. Chapter 167. Chen Qinghang was sucked into the Demon Sealing Tower, and all of his memories regarding the holy glacial lands and Meng Ji were slowly stripped away. There was nothing within the tower other than a vast expanse of gray. There was nothing he could do except fall into a deep slumber. After a good night's sleep, he would wake up as the real Chen Qinghang. Not Bing Fu, not Meng Ji's toy. He would live on as the pride of the 10,000 Spirits Immortal sect. After what seemed like an eternity, he heard a violent explosion, and his consciousness began to slowly return. Chen Qinghang woke up and stood up from a pile of shattered white crystals. He then saw the heavenly dawn peak, which had been ravaged by the wind and snow. He saw countless corpses lying on the ground, and he saw many people who were still alive looking at him. He looked up into the sky and finally came to his senses as a wry smile appeared on his face. So that's how it is. Soon, an elder of the 10,000 Spirits Immortal sect stepped forward and yelled at him. Are you Chen Qinghang or Bing Fu? Chen Qinghang. Bing Fu? The man's memories slowly surfaced in his mind. The past was so clear. He faltered before his eyes widened as he looked at the elders of the 10,000 Spirits Immortal sect. What are you doing? What happened to wiping away all of my memories regarding the holy glacial lands? Why do I remember everything so clearly now? All the elders of the 10,000 Spirits Immortal sect. At this moment, a boundless river of ice suddenly appeared in the sky, surrounding the three peak leaders. An exquisitely beautiful silver-haired woman descended from the sky before flashing toward Chen Qinghang and hugging him tightly. She was the current high priestess of the holy glacial lands, Meng Ji. Toy, I'm here to take you back. Come with me, okay. The high priestess, who had just stood proudly in the sky and battled 3 return-to-void stage mighty figures on her own, was now clinging tightly to Chen Qinghang's clothes with both excitement and uneasiness. Chen Qinghang came to his senses and pushed Meng Ji away. No. My father is still here. I promised him that I wouldn't leave the 10,000 Spirits Immortal sect. Who said your father was here? I've captured him and brought him to the Snow God Palace. Meng Ji's golden eyes were dodging Lin's gaze as she spoke apologetically. Chen Qinghang's eyes widened again. I wanted to use your father in exchange for you, but the 10,000 Spirits Immortal sect didn't agree, so I've been keeping your father captive this entire time. Meng Ji's voice became weaker and weaker, like a little girl who had done something wrong. The corner of Chen Qinghang's mouth twitched. If his memories had been wiped, he would have attacked the high priest without hesitation. But now, fine, Chen Qinghang said solemnly. I agree to go back with you. But you have to promise me that you'll release my father when we return to the Ice Saint region. Of course. Aside from the Great Empress, I have the final say in the Holy Glacial Realm. A sweet smile appeared on Mengji's face as she stared at the man before her, just like she had done hundreds of years ago. Rumble! In the sky above, the three peak lords broke through the glacial river, and their expressions began to fluctuate as they caught sight of Chen Qinghang and Mengji. Qinghang, don't persist in going about things the wrong way. You have to know that if you make the wrong choice again, the 10,000 Spirits Immortal sect will never tolerate you again. The old woman of the Heavenly Dawn Peak gripped her cane tightly as she spoke in a solemn voice. In the 10,000 Spirits Immortal sect, the person she admired the most was Chen Qinghang, and he was also the person she felt the most heartache for. Chen Qinghang looked up at the old woman with a warm smile. Granny Xiao, thank you for taking care of me this entire time, but this is my only choice this time. Let's go. He turned to Mengji. Mengji nodded and summoned back the 9 ice dragons that were battling the formation spirit. She then charged out of the spell formation with Chen Qinghang in tow and fled into the distance. 2 returned to Void Stage Holy Palace leaders, and a few dozen powerful snow maidens trailed closely behind them. The peak lords and elders didn't give chase. Without the protection of the spell formation, they were even less of a match for Mengji. In this battle, they were the ones who had lost. The sun had already sunk below the horizon, and countless stars began to appear in the sky. The Heavenly Dawn Peak had been completely ravaged by this battle. There were craters and cracks all over the place, and the ghastly cracks made it look as if it were on the verge of collapse. If it weren't for the return to Void Stage Peak Lords purposely drawing the battle into the air, the Heavenly Dawn Peak would most likely have been destroyed. Anlin had experienced this thrilling battle as a passerby, and he felt as if he were going to die at any moment. Thankfully, the High Priestess was only here to kidnap him and not to fight to the death. Otherwise, who knew what would have happened? After the battle, some of the sect disciples were responsible for cleaning up the aftermath of the battle on the Heavenly Dawn Peak. Anlin was responsible for taking Xianyuan Qing and Tang Xiuan to the sect's treatment center. Both of them had sustained severe injuries, and they needed to be treated using a spell formation. Anlin heaved a light sigh of relief upon seeing them enter the spell formation before leaving the treatment center. He then met up with Xiao Chou and Dabai. Thankfully, neither of them had suffered any mishaps. Dabai had overslept, so he didn't know about the earth-shattering battle that had just taken place. Xiao Chou hadn't received an order from Anlin, so he didn't attack on his own. After making sure that his beast pets were fine, Anlin began to wander around again. Before he knew it, he had returned to the Heavenly Dawn Peak. He had been sightseeing this afternoon, and he had praised the Heavenly Dawn Peak for being the most beautiful of the 5 main peaks. Who would have thought that in less than half a day, this place would be reduced to rubble and scorched earth, becoming the ugliest of the 5 main peaks. He lay on a protruding boulder and looked up at the twinkling stars in the sky, his thoughts drifting away. Why did the silver-haired man tell him about the self-detonation, and why Chen Qinghang's memory hadn't been erased? These were things that he had no way of knowing. The sudden battle had resulted in the deaths of many sect disciples, and even a few elders. The prodigy of the younger generation, Zhang Yan, whom he had just met, had also been reduced to dust by that terrifying self-detonation. It had to be said, this was the cruelty of battles in the cultivation world. Who knew when a mighty figure would suddenly appear and kill him with a single slap? Sigh. I'm already at the spirit nurturing stage, but why do I feel like I'm still too weak? Anlin sighed to himself. He felt like he was like Detective Conan. Wherever he went, something would happen, and many of them would be fatal. He was clearly bullying a cultivator of the Tao body stage, but the enemies he encountered were all King mighty figures of the soul formation stage and return to void stage. Thinking of this, he could not help but sigh faintly. For some reason, His gaze began to focus on that unblinking star. This star was round, and its light was extremely gentle. It was like a small moon, and it hung motionlessly in the sky. This star is so special. It's probably not a fake star, Unlin complained. Chapter 168. Unlin stared at the star for a full 10 minutes, and he was getting a little sleepy in the end. After today's battle, he was physically and mentally exhausted. Now that he could finally relax, he was overcome by drowsiness. With this in mind, he flew back on his brick to rest. The moon set and the sun rose. Soon, a new day arrived. He opened his bleary eyes and was greeted by the sight of Xiao Chow's large face. The sight of Xiao Chou was extremely refreshing. He didn't even need to wash his face before he instantly woke up. "Why are you staring at me so early in the morning?" Unlin jumped up in shock. Xiao Chou scratched his fur. "Dabai just told me that he's going to visit a brothel today. He told me to let you know when you woke up." "Visit a brothel?" Unlin's eyes widened. "A dog's brothel or a human's?" Xiao Chow's face convulsed. "Big brother, have you ever seen a dog's brothel?" Unlin instantly became excited upon hearing this. Sure enough, there was something wrong with Dabai's sexual orientation. Why would he be interested in human beauties? This wasn't the animal world at all. Take Unlin for example. Even if a female dog was as beautiful as a flower, he wouldn't be interested in it. At most, he would only praise the dog for being beautiful. However, Dabai was going to visit a human's brothel? What kind of attitude was that? "No, I have to see what Dabai is up to." Unlin stood up with a serious expression. As the master, he felt the need to correct his beast pet's sexual orientation. Otherwise, if Dabai brought a female human cultivator back to the mythological beast sect and told Bai Xian that she was his wife, then as the master, Unlin would definitely be eaten by Bai Xian. Unlin asked in a grave voice, "Do you know where Dabai is visiting the brothel?" Xiao Chou shook his head. "It's in the nearby Shihua prefecture. I don't know where exactly it is." "All right, wait for me here. I'll be back soon." With that, Unlin leaped onto the black brick and soared into the sky. The Stone Flower Prefecture was the prefecture city closest to the 10,000 Spirits Immortal sect. It was rumored that the women here all had fair skin and slender figures. As such, this prefecture city had the highest concentration of beautiful women in the entire Stone Dragon state. The more beautiful women there were, the more romantic places there would be. Based on his past experience, Unlin made a conservative estimate that there should be no less than 30 such places in Shihua County. Fortunately, he didn't need to search each house one by one. Because he had signed a pet beast contract with Dabai, as long as they were within a 10-mile radius, they could sense each other's location. Just like that, Unlin arrived at the entrance of Spring River House. Looking at the large pavilion, he sneered, It's really grand. I'm afraid this is the best brothel in Shihua Prefecture." What are you talking about, young master? This is a proper place. The women here only sell their skills, not their bodies. This is a place that specializes in showcasing their talents and bringing joy to their customers." A brothel keeper dressed in a seductive outfit said in a seductive voice as she sidled up to Unlin. "How about 10 spirit stones?" Unlin asked. Young master, you should come in and listen to the women sing and play the zither," the brothel keeper said with a smile. 100 spirit stones, Unlin continued. The brothel keeper's expression shifted as she asked in a low voice, "What kind of women do you want? Apart from our top courtesan, anyone else is fine." As expected, this place was different from the Windflower Court he had been to before. This really was a brothel. "I'll go in and have a look." Unlin nodded before making his way into the room. The brothel keeper could see that Unlin's attire and disposition were both extraordinary, so she immediately followed behind him and introduced him to the women. At the same time, in a private room, A furry white dog sat on a chair with his legs crossed as he drank and sang merrily with a group of beautiful women. "Big brother Bai, why am I the one drinking again?" the woman in green asked shyly with a seductive expression. "Ha ha ha ha, it's a game, you have to be willing to lose. You only have two choices. Drink or take off a piece of clothing, woof." This white dog was none other than Dabai. He stared intently at the woman in green with his big, watery eyes and stuck out his tongue as he spoke with excitement. "That's right, either drink or take off your clothes. I've already stripped down to my underwear, and you still have two pieces of clothing. What are you being shy about?" A woman in a red underwear with a voluptuous figure exclaimed in a loud voice. The woman in green had no choice but to take off a piece of clothing, revealing a portion of her body. Dabai's legs trembled slightly as he looked on with excitement. His other paw also made a sudden attack on the woman's butt. "Ah, Big Brother Bai is so mean!" the voluptuous woman yelled. Dabai was extremely excited upon hearing this. "Woof! Let's continue. Little Purple, don't stop singing." On the other side, the woman in purple nodded shyly and continued to sing. Thus, Dabai continued to happily play the game. And then, the woman in the red underwear lost. Dabai swallowed with an excited expression. "Are you going to drink or take off?" The woman in the red underwear blushed as she caressed her towering, soft, and bouncy chest. "What do you think, Big Brother Bai? Take off, take off, take off, woof!" Dabai's legs were on the ground as he yelled. Boom! The door was kicked open. "What do you mean take off? Who dares to spoil my fun, woof?" Dabai was just in the middle of his excitement when he was interrupted, and he flared up with rage. "Me." The man walked in and looked at Dabai with a cold expression. Dabai raised his head and his legs trembled. Big Brotherin, why are you here?" The man was Enlin. The moment he walked in, he saw the woman in green who was wearing thin clothes, and the voluptuous woman who was only wearing a red underwear. Even he couldn't help but be slightly dazed by this scene. The brothel keeper behind Enlin realized that this extravagant lord dog actually called the man in front of her Big Brotherin. She couldn't help but become even more respectful. She even secretly hinted to the maid next to her to immediately call the top courtesan of Spring River House over. "I'm here to see where you're having fun. I'm not disturbing you, am I?" Enlin grinned, but his tone was extremely unfriendly. "Welcome, Big Brotherin. How can I say that I'm disturbing you? Come, let's play a game and have fun together." Dabai jumped off the chair and used his fluffy white fur to rub against Enlin, with a fawning expression on his face. "Have fun together?" Enlin's veins popped out. Did this Dabai not realize what he had done wrong? "Speak. Why did you come here?" Enlin loudly reprimanded. Dabai blinked his big round eyes and said, "To visit a brothel." Enlin's chest tightened. "You answered so honestly, how am I supposed to reply?" He thought for a moment and decided to change his approach. "Speak. Why do you like women and not female dogs?" Dabai's face turned red when he heard this. He shyly lowered his head and said, "Women have smooth and delicate skin, big breasts, and perky buttocks. What else do female dogs have other than a lot of fur? With such a comparison, of course I'll choose the woman." After saying this, he looked at the woman who was only wearing an underwear, and his eyes lit up. Enlin's eyes darkened when he heard this. There was nothing wrong with what Dabai said, and he agreed with it. But it was especially problematic when these words came out of Dabai's mouth. Hey! Was this something a dog should say? Could it be that Dabai was a human who had been reborn and then possessed the body of a dog? Perhaps he had been possessed by some mighty being. No. Only a mighty being would attempt to possess a dog. Just as Enlin's thoughts were running wild, a servant's voice sounded from outside the door. "Sister Lan Yu is here." Immediately afterward, a lithe and graceful woman pushed open the door and entered, bringing with her a cool breeze. Chapter 169. "Top courtesan Sister Lan Yu is here," someone announced. Creak. A lithe and graceful woman pushed open the door and entered. She was dressed in a blue dress, and her silky black hair fluttered in the wind. Her beautiful eyes darted around before finally settling on Enlin. She bowed slightly and said, "Your servant, Lan Yu, pays her respects to you, young master." Enlin glanced at Lan Yu before glaring at Dabai. "Did you call her here as well?" Dabai shook his head, but his eyes lit up. "I didn't call her, but she's very good. Let her stay." Enlin slapped his forehead. He felt like Dabai was beyond cure. He couldn't control himself at the sight of a beautiful woman. "What about Qing Hua?" The brothel keeper standing behind Enlin began to speak. "Lan Yu is the top courtesan of our Spring River house. Her singing and playing skills are the best in the Shihua prefecture. Young master, why don't you give her a listen?" "The best in the Shihua prefecture?" Enlin nodded upon hearing this. He had an indescribable fondness for the songs of the Kingdom of the Nine States. Seeing as Lan Yu could sing, he didn't mind listening to her. "Then I won't disturb you, young master." The brothel keeper walked out of the room with a wide smile on her face after seeing Enlin nod in agreement. Lan Yu smiled daintily and sat down on a chair with her wooden pipa in her arms. "May I ask what level of playing and singing would you like to hear, young master?" Enlin was dazed. "How many levels are there?" "Playing and singing casually, 100 spirit stones per song. Normal playing and singing, 200 spirit stones per song. Serious playing and singing, 300 spirit stones per song. Passionate playing and singing, 500 spirit stones per song." Lan Yu's eyes were like limpid autumn waters as she spoke in an extremely pleasant voice. Enlin's lips twitched. What the hell was playing and singing casually? Couldn't she be more professional as a top courtesan? Dabai's eyes lit up again and he immediately asked, "Wolf, are you going to sing and take off your clothes?" Bang! Enlin punched Dabai's head, causing a huge bump to appear. He said angrily, "Can't you just be a dog? Why do you want to be a man?" Dabai's face was full of grievance, but Lan Yu covered her mouth and chuckled. "I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint Brother Bai. I only sell my skills, not my body." "Then let's play and sing to our heart's content." Enlin thought that since he wasn't short of money, he would definitely listen to the best. Lan Yu nodded, and her slender hands began to dance on the lute. The beautiful melody was paired with her gentle voice, and both Enlin and Bai felt a sense of elation wash over their bodies. The beauty in the red dudu and the woman in green were consciously pouring wine for Enlin and Bai. Accompanied by the beautiful music, Enlin felt that it was time to get down to business. "Enlin, Bai, tell me the truth. Are you a man in human form?" Bai was sipping wine and listening to the tune, but a bitter expression appeared on his face when he heard Enlin's question. "Big brotherin, I really did come out of my mother's womb. I'm a genuine male dog. As for why I'm like a man and like beautiful women, I don't know why either." Enlin's expression became solemn. "Then if you had to choose between Lan Yu and Qing Hua as your wife, who would you choose?" This time, Bai was a little stumped, and his face furrowed slightly as a conflicted expression appeared on his face. Enlin heaved a sigh of relief. The fact that he was still conflicted meant that Bai's sense of beauty hadn't been twisted to the point of no return. He could still be saved. Bai was a little exasperated. "It's really hard to choose a wife. Lan Yu is so beautiful, but it's a pity that she can't bear puppies. Qing Hua can bear puppies, but her figure and appearance are too ordinary." Enlin almost blacked out upon hearing this. F***ck. Puppies weren't humans, so how could they have any curves? F***ck. So this was what Bai was conflicted about. There really was no saving him. Suddenly, Enlin thought of another possibility. "Bai, could your father be like you, liking human beauties?" He had to start his research from the perspective of heredity. If it really was hereditary, then there was nothing he could do. Bai smiled with pride. "Of course. Thinking back, it was my father who took me to brothels. We even had a famous nickname, the Bi-Wastrels. Unlin was dumbfounded upon hearing this. Holy F***ck. This was even more terrifying than heredity. Bai-Sien actually took Dabai to brothels. Unlin didn't know what to say anymore. Dabai's current state was completely his father's fault. It was the father's fault for not teaching his son properly. In any case, it was Bai-Sien's job to worry about whether or not Dabai would bring a beautiful wife back with him. Unlin wasn't going to take the blame for this. With this in mind, Unlin's heart was finally at ease. It's none of my business anyway. If Dabai likes women, then so be it. No matter how you look at it, a voluptuous beauty is prettier than a puppy. Unlin felt relieved. Accompanied by the singing of the blue moon, he, Dabai, the beauty in the red dudu, the woman in green, and the others drank to their heart's content. On an immortal mountain in the 10,000 spirits immortal sect, Xiao Chou squatted in front of a house, waiting for Unlin and Dabai to return. Unlin said he would be back soon. He still had to make a trip to the Greenwood Imperial Palace after this, so Xiao Chou was ready to go. Noon arrived, but Unlin still hadn't returned. Xiao Chou was still waiting. Before he knew it, the afternoon had passed, but there was still no sign of Unlin. Could it be that something happened to Big Brother and when he went to capture Dabai? Xiao Chou was a little uneasy, but he still waited at the door. The sun gradually set, and the moon and stars gradually appeared in the night sky. Boom! The ground suddenly trembled violently, startling Xiao Chou awake from his nap. He looked over to see Dabai's head plunged into the ground, creating a large crater. Dabai was sprawled on all fours as he wailed in anguish. Unlin also tumbled to the ground and stumbled unsteadily. Big Brother and my head hurts so bad. How did you get on your dog? I crashed into the ground, Dabai stuttered and stuttered. Unlin punched the dusty dog's head again. Stupid, stupid dog. I told you to land here, but you made a 360-degree spiral descent, and you even made it face down. Do you really think you're an impact drill? Dabai faltered slightly upon hearing this. He then realized that he really was a little stupid, and he burst into laughter. Unlin was quite amused, and he also chortled with mirth. The man and dog reeked of alcohol as they walked into the room with their arms around each other's shoulders. Unlin then looked at Xiao Chou, who was still in a daze, and patted his shoulder with a regretful expression. Ah, Xiao Chou, I'm so sorry, the girls from Spring River Brothel are so talented. It's a pity that I didn't invite you earlier. Xiao Chou grimaced. Big Brotherin, shouldn't you be going to the brothel to capture Dabai? Why did you go to a brothel with Dabai? Unlin's brows furrowed. How can a cultivator's brothel be called a brothel? We didn't do anything like that, it should be called a romantic affair. Dabai's eyes lit up upon hearing this, and a sinister smile appeared on his face. As expected of Big Brother and you're so cultured. Next time, let's bring Xiao Chou along for a romantic affair. Sure. Unlin chuckled heartily as he slung an arm around Xiao Chou's shoulder and returned to his room. This beautiful day finally came to an end. Chapter 170. Early in the morning, Unlin woke up. The sun shone through the paper window onto his face, bringing with it a hint of warmth. There was a little red flower in a flower pot on the windowsill. She was Xiaohong. Even though Unlin had not forgotten to let her bask in the sun and undergo photosynthesis these past few days, there was still no sign of her awakening. He put Xiaohong away in his pocket and gathered Dabai and Xiao Chou together before bidding farewell to Xianyuan Cheng. Before leaving, Tang Xuan gave Unlin a white jade pendant for self-protection, saying that it was to repay him for saving her life on the Heavenly Dawn Peak. Unlin didn't think too much about it and accepted it. Tang Xuan was a woman in a white dress who was as ethereal as clouds and mist. She stood quietly on the mountain peak as she looked on at the departing Unlin on his dog. The wind swept her hair about as she gripped tightly onto the other jade pendant in her hand. The Purple Star State was located to the east of the Stone Dragon State and was the only state in the Kingdom of the Nine States that did not restrict the development of science and technology. The Greenwood imperial family of the 4 sects and 9 emperors was the model leader in the integration of cultivation and science and technology. The Greenwood imperial family had reached some kind of agreement with the Celestial Court, so the Celestial Court did not interfere with their research in this field. Instead, they provided them with a certain amount of funding. The Purple Star State and the Stone Dragon State were neighbors, so Enlin did not use the teleportation spell formation. Instead, he flew on his dog. After entering the territory of the Purple Star State, he immediately sensed something different. The buildings here were no longer simple brick and tile structures. Instead, they were all made of concrete. He even saw trains. Even though they were steam trains, it was still quite astonishing. The roads on the ground were very well planned, and there were all types of strange vehicles on them. There were 4-wheeled vehicles that looked like cars, as well as streamlined flying machines that hovered in the air. He even saw massive airships flying in the sky. They didn't fly very quickly, but they could carry at least 1,000 people. The technological level of the Purple Star State was most likely at the time of the First Industrial Revolution, but there were many things that had never been seen on Earth. This was a combination of futuristic and retro elements, and Enlin couldn't help but sigh in amazement. As they flew towards the Greenwood Imperial Palace, they saw countless strange things. In the end, Enlin was a little worried that the palace they would arrive at would be a skyscraper. Finally, they arrived at their destination. He heaved a sigh of relief in his heart because the style of the Greenwood Imperial Palace was not much different from the style in his heart. The splendid and magnificent palaces formed a huge and magnificent group of palaces. The golden glazed roofs emitted a noble and dignified glow under the sunlight. The gates of the palace were guarded by dozens of armored soldiers with powerful auras. After Enlin reported his intentions, one of the generals guarding the gate immediately began to contact the person in charge of the palace. "All right, I'll bring the guest in." "What? Her Royal Highness is coming in person?" All right. The general hung up the transmission talisman and turned to Enlin with an extremely respectful expression. "Princess Yunlu is already on her way here. Please wait patiently." Enlin nodded and stretched lazily on Dabai's back. Soon, he heard the rumbling of footsteps. "Classmate Enlin," a soft and mellow voice sounded from afar. Enlin raised his head and saw Su Qianyun running toward him on the back of a huge blue wolf that was over 20 feet tall. She wore a red palace robe, and there was a wide smile on her delicate face as she waved at Enlin. "Hi, Su Qianyun." Enlin smiled and greeted her as well. "I didn't think that you would come to play with me, Enlin. This is such a pleasant surprise." Su Qianyun was clearly very happy as she revealed an extremely sweet smile. Enlin couldn't take his eyes off her. "Oh right, this Sky Lake Wolf is called Xiaoman, it's my pet beast," Su Qianyun introduced as she led Enlin into the palace on her huge blue wolf. The Sky Lake Wolf was several times larger than Dabai. It looked mighty and majestic, and its aura was extremely vast. It was most likely already at the level of a soul formation stage soul beast. Enlin also extended a warm greeting toward the Heavenly Lake Wolf. Then, he looked at the Sky Lake Wolf, then at his own Dabai, and fell into deep thought. Both of them were riding on their pet beasts, but he felt an indescribable sense of awkwardness. If he had to describe it, he felt that Su Qianyun was driving a Ferrari while he was driving a Cherry QQ. The difference in style was like heaven and earth. Due to the difference in height between the two pet beasts, he had to raise his head to talk to Su Qianyun. It wasn't like Su Qianyun was wearing a short skirt, so he didn't feel happy talking with his head raised. Instead, his neck felt tired. With this in mind, he stroked Dabai's head expectantly and asked softly, "Dabai, can you become as big as Xiaoman?" Dabai rolled his eyes and answered concisely, "I can't. I'm only this big anyway. Ride me if you want." Lin heaved a disappointed sigh upon hearing this. Seeing Lin's expression, Su Qianyun immediately came back to her senses. She secretly scolded herself for not taking care of Lin's feelings. Then, she patted Xiaoman's head. The Sky Lake Wolf understood. With a flash of blue light, it began to grow to the same size as Dabai. Just like that, Su Qianyun and Lin began to walk side by side. Seeing this, Lin couldn't help but be stunned. Then, he patted Dabai's head and said enviously, "Look at Xiaoman. She can grow and shrink at will. She's so agile." Dabai's fur stood up and he sneered. "I can grow and shrink at will too, woof. I'll show you now." "Really?" Lin's eyes lit up and he began to feel excited. With a flash of white light, Lin fell to the ground with a plop. In front of him, a mini version of Dabai appeared. It was Dabai's size before he formed his gold core. "Look, I can grow and shrink at will too. Do you like it?" "Woof," Dabai sneered. Lin crawled up from the ground. Hearing this, his chest tightened and he immediately begged, "Dabai, stop it. I don't want you to grow. Turn back to your original majestic appearance. Now you know how to suck up to me? It's too late, woof." Saying this, Dabai maintained his mini size and walked forward with his head high and chest out. Lin, humans always learned to cherish things when they lost them. Now even Cherry QQ was gone. He could only walk. Su Qianyun found that poor Lin could only walk. She thought for a moment and then patted Xiaoman's head. Xiaoman understood and turned into a small wolf the same size as Dabai. Looking at it this way, they looked like two puppies walking side by side. Su Qianyun also walked to Lin's side with a slight smile. Lin was touched. How gentle and considerate classmate Su was. "Looks like my Mandarin and English weren't taught in vain." Lin was so touched that he said to Su Qianyun in Mandarin, "Classmate Su, you look so beautiful when you smile." Su Qianyun's dreamy blue eyes blinked. Then, she stared blankly at Lin and asked softly, "What did you just say?" Lin, "Fine, looks like my Mandarin and English were taught in vain." Chapter 171. Lin and Su Qianyun walked side by side in the Greenwood Imperial Palace. The Greenwood Imperial Palace was extremely vast. Not only was there a majestic palace, but there was also a picturesque imperial mountain, a gentle lake, and a sea of flowers. It had to be said that the scenery within the imperial palace was truly beautiful. The two of them had a smooth journey and enjoyed themselves to their heart's content. Apart from a few clan members casting curious glances at Lin, nothing else happened. Up ahead is the 6th research lab of our imperial palace. "Do you want to go take a look?" Su Qianyun asked as she pointed at a building that was constructed from white jade. "Research lab? Is it related to technology and cultivation research?" Lin's eyes lit up as he asked. That's right. That's where the great scientist of our imperial family, Professor Yang, conducts his research. There are many interesting things inside, Su Qianyun said with a smile. As she spoke, 2 small dimples appeared on her fair and tender face, making her appear extremely adorable. "Let's go take a look." Lin's interest was instantly piqued upon hearing this. He was extremely curious and had a desire to explore things that were a combination of technology and cultivation. As they pushed open the metal door, they were greeted by all kinds of strange mechanical creations. There were also all kinds of magic tools and formation discs hanging in the air. Wow, so many treasures! Lin's eyes almost sparkled as he stared at these metallic objects. Haha, the word treasures is well used. I like it. A bespectacled middle-aged man with messy hair and a stubble on his face walked over with a smile. Lin was slightly taken aback upon seeing this middle-aged man. This was the first time he had seen a bespectacled man in the Kingdom of the 9 States. Oh no, Madagascar seemed to have worn one before as well. However, hers were just for decoration. "He is the great scientist of our Greenwood Imperial family, Professor Yang," Su Qianyun introduced with a smile. Lin nodded respectfully. Hello, I am Lin, Su Qinyun's classmate. Professor Yang adjusted his spectacles, which reflected the light of wisdom. A mysterious smile appeared on his face. Princess Yunlo, this seems to be the first time you've brought another man around. You seem to have a good relationship. Lin is my classmate. I'm just doing my duty as a host. Su Qianyun was a shy girl, and her face immediately turned bright red at the slightest bit of teasing. Professor Yang waved his hand. I can't be bothered with this matter. Anyway, it's fine as long as Fairy Chong isn't angry. By the way, what are you doing here? I brought classmate Lin here to witness the most advanced cultivation technology, Su Qianyun replied after changing the subject. She had recovered a bit of her composure. I see. Professor Yang said. It's very dangerous to touch with them. It is. Su Qianyun was delighted to hear this. That's great. Thank you, Professor Yang. After that, Professor Yang brought Lin and Su Qianyun to see all kinds of machines. There were flying machines, such as the steel bone wings that could allow one to soar in the blue sky. There were also the cloud movement boots and hover discs that were more portable. Although these flying machines were not as nimble as spirit-nurturing stage cultivators, they could allow Tao body stage cultivators to use their own vital energy to fly into the blue sky. This was definitely a great boon for Tao body stage cultivators who longed for the blue sky. However, these things were very expensive to manufacture. Currently, only some special forces could afford them. Next were all kinds of everyday tools. For example, beads that could automatically adjust the temperature and humidity within a certain range, white cotton clouds that could purify filth. Then, there were new weapons that combined cultivation and technology. An ordinary weapon, such as a handgun, could compress a cultivator's vitality and store it for energy. Finally, it could shoot out an extremely penetrating projectile. There were more advanced weapons, such as the lightning cloud sword, which could collect divine lightning, the black sky cannon, which was a magic tool but could store wind energy, the light net killing formation, which could be combined with spell formations. It had to be said that if these things could be mass-produced, they could definitely increase the power of cultivators by several levels. Lin walked to the end of the research institute. There was a huge object there. Tubes crisscrossed and intertwined with each other. Blue symbols flashed on the intricate components, and a cold aura slowly emanated from it. The huge pitch-black cannon was aimed at the sky, as if it was about to destroy the heavens. What's that? Lin asked in amazement as he pointed at the gigantic mechanical construct. Professor Yang smiled mysteriously. This is a secret of the imperial family, so I won't introduce it. Lin nodded and continued to follow behind Professor Yang. Now, let me introduce my new invention to you. I call it the Super Steel Puppet. Professor Yang arrived in front of a black metal box and opened it. A brilliant white light instantly shone from within. Lin's eyes widened. A humanoid metal puppet had appeared before him. To put it more accurately, it was a Gundam that was about the size of a human. It had a metallic sheen, a cold cannon barrel, a sharp blade, and an energy slot in the center. Apart from the fact that this machine was a little ugly, everything else was very similar. This super steel puppet I've created has an extremely high defense. Even soul formation stage cultivators won't be able to break through its metal skin. It also has plasma cannons, vital energy cannons, and 5 elemental cannons. There's also a super steel alloy sword. It can be said that if we can mass-produce this thing, our imperial family will definitely stand at the top of the 9 imperial families. Professor Yang adjusted his glasses with a smug and confident expression on his face. Su Qianyun smiled faintly beside him. She had seen this super steel puppet before, and it was indeed very powerful. This super steel puppet was no longer a secret among the imperial family and even the upper-level immortal sects of the Purple Star State. On the contrary, the Greenwood imperial family had intentionally revealed this secret to form a military deterrent. In any case, even if the other immortal sects knew of its existence, they wouldn't be able to create it. What do you think, Unlin, my young friend? I'm not trying to boast, but there's definitely no mechanical puppet creation in this world that can compare to it. This super steel puppet is the epitome of perfection and romance. Professor Yang looked at Unlin, expecting to see admiration on his face. Unfortunately, Unlin disappointed Professor Yang. He actually looked at the super steel puppet with a strange expression. Just as Professor Yang was feeling a little displeased, Unlin spoke again. I also have a mechanical puppet creation. Do you want to take a look? What did you say? You also have one? Professor Yang's expression changed. Then, he felt that what Unlin was about to take out was probably a pheasant puppet covered in iron, so he chuckled lightly. Then take it out for me to take a look. Perhaps I can help you improve it. Unlin nodded. Then, he took out the humanoid Gundam that he had snatched from the 88th Purple Star Research Institute from his storage ring and placed it on the ground. This Gundam shone with a white metallic luster, and its entire body was sleek and sleek. Moreover, it exuded a faint aura of its own, as if it was a living being. Professor Yang's disdainful gaze gradually became sluggish, and even his breathing became ragged. His hands exuded a golden glow as he stroked the white Gundam with trembling hands. His lips trembled as he said, "Alloy material construction, perfect. Formation route coordination, perfect. Body coordination, perfect. Weapon, unknown." Just like that, Professor Yang was completely defeated. This was because compared to the mechanical puppet that Unlin had taken out, his super steel puppet couldn't even compare to a pheasant puppet. It was completely trash. Chapter 172. It's really too perfect. Professor Yang exclaimed and hugged the mechanical puppet on the ground tightly. As if he was hugging a great beauty, his face was filled with bliss and intoxication. Beside him, Unlin and Su Qianyun were stunned. Where did the mature and steady Professor Yang go? Why did he look like a pervert now? After hugging the mechanical puppet for a long time, Professor Yang began to regain his senses. He raised his head to look at Unlin and said excitedly, "My friend Unlin, how did you get such a wonderful mechanical puppet?" Unlin scratched his head and said sheepishly, "About that, can I not tell you?" Hearing this, Professor Yang nodded and did not continue to ask about this. Such a perfect creation, the technological level of the existence that created this thing had definitely reached an unimaginable level. In fact, he already had a guess in his heart. "Your mechanical puppet doesn't seem to have an energy source," Professor Yang said as he looked at the circular object in the center of the Gundam. Unlin nodded and said excitedly, "Yes, the core of this mechanical puppet is the fusion of 100 beasts. It can perfectly fuse technology and bloodline power. However, I have no idea how to create this core's energy source." In the information he obtained from the ruins, there was no information on how to create a mechanical puppet's energy source. Therefore, even if he had this mechanical puppet, he would not be able to use it. It was precisely because of this that he decided to take this thing out in front of Professor Yang. He wanted to see if the great scientists who had done research on this could solve this problem. Professor Yang adjusted his glasses, which reflected the light of wisdom, and said with a passionate gaze, "The key to the construction of the energy core is the absorption and conversion of energy, as well as the construction of a spiritual network that can communicate with the owner. You've found the right person to find. In the entire kingdom of the 9 states, I'm probably the only person who can help you create a qualified energy source." "Really? Then what do I need to pay?" Unlin was overjoyed and said excitedly. He knew that the mechanical puppet's energy source was not an ordinary item. It would definitely cost a lot to create it. He was already mentally prepared. Professor Yang raised 3 fingers. Unlin was a little hesitant. 300,000 spirit stones? Professor Yang shook his head and said with a faint smile, I don't want money. I just want you to leave the mechanical puppet with me and let me study it for 3 days. 3 days later, I will return both the puppet and the energy source. Unlin blinked in confusion. What you want is technology. Not stupid. Professor Yang smiled gently and continued, That's right. Although I've done a lot of research on mechanical products, this is the first time I've seen such a perfect mechanical puppet. I hope to learn some new knowledge through these 3 days of exploration. Alright, but you have to help me create 2 energy sources. Unlin nodded and made another request. Anyway, this was not a loss to him, and he even saved a lot of money, which was actually very good for him. Professor Yang was stunned. Why? You want one as a backup? Unlin shook his head. No, because I have 2 such mechanical puppets. But now that you mention it, I still want 4 energy sources. It's better to be safe than sorry. Professor Yang almost spat out a mouthful of blood upon hearing this. Do you think creating energy sources doesn't cost money? The cost is going to scare you to death. I can only make 2, no more. Just like that, Unlin and Professor Yang reached a deal. He left some blood essence in the research lab as a material for the energy source to connect to the mind-spirit network. After that, he left with Su Qianyun in satisfaction and continued to play. As expected of a great scientist, he's so awesome. He can even create energy sources. Unlin was in a good mood and praised as he walked. Su Qianyun pursed her lips and smiled. Unlin is also very impressive to be able to create such a perfect mechanical puppet. This is the first time I've seen Professor Yang lose his composure like that. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but Unlin felt that Su Qianyun seemed to be better at talking than before and had become much more considerate. Look, even praising him was so good. The 2 of them continued to wander around. Other than some forbidden areas of the royal family that they didn't enter, they basically played in all the other interesting places. At night, Unlin and Dabai also feasted on the delicacies of the Greenwood Imperial Palace. Not only did the delicacies in the palace look and smell excellent, but they would also add a lot of wild spiritual items. It was delicious and could also unknowingly strengthen one's body and increase one's cultivation. Hence, Unlin was full of praise for this dish, and his stomach bulged from all the food he ate. Dabai was a puppy for a day. Seeing the table full of delicacies, he also transformed into a giant dog, not for anything else but to eat a little more. Just like that, a happy day passed. The next day, Unlin and Su Qianyun once again came to Professor Yang's research lab. Unlin was dumbfounded when he saw his Gundam being dismembered into pieces by Professor Yang. Professor Yang, what are you doing? Unlin panicked as if he had seen his treasure being smashed by his other friends. Professor Yang raised his eyes and said, Isn't it obvious? I'm doing in-depth research. Unlin stared at the hundreds and thousands of broken parts on the ground and took a deep breath. Are you sure you can restore it to its original state? Professor Yang smiled gently and said seriously, Don't worry, I'm a professional. Unlin couldn't bear to watch any longer, and he dragged Su Qianyun along with him as he made his way out of the room. His heart ached and he felt extremely uneasy as he watched his baby being disassembled into pieces. Now, he could only pray that this Professor Yang of the cultivation world would be more serious and responsible. He wouldn't be like some experts in China. When he walked outside, he suddenly heard a soft voice by his ear, Your hand. Unlin blinked and looked at the beautiful face of the woman in front of him that had turned crimson. He felt the soft and gentle hand in his hand and was so scared that he immediately let go. Ah, sorry, I was too excited. No, it's fine. Su Qianyun shook her head and calmed herself down before replying in a low voice. Big Sister Chang, he said that you won't get pregnant if you hold hands with another man. You'll only get pregnant if you kiss him. Unlin was stunned when he heard this. 10,000 alpacas rolled through his heart. Kissing will get pregnant? Is it really okay for Sister Chang to teach Sister Su Qianyun like this? However, he didn't dare to teach Su Qianyun the correct physiological knowledge. If he did this, he would really be killed by Sister Chang'e. On the way back, Enlin met another luxuriously dressed man who was very beautiful. "Second brother, where are you going?" Su Qianyun smiled and greeted the man. Enlin came back to his senses. Su Qianyun had two brothers, Su Gu and Su Exen. This man in front of him seemed to be her second brother, Su Exien. Su Exien's skin was fair and delicate, and his appearance was even more handsome. Enlin was struck by a sense of awe as soon as he laid eyes on him. The word beautiful was an extremely apt description for him. As expected of brother and sister, their genes were really good. Su Exien turned around and saw who it was. A doting smile immediately appeared on his handsome face. "Swordsman Jiang Yanan is coming to the Imperial Palace to give a lecture today. I'm just about to go over and ask for some guidance. Are you interested in going over?" Hearing this, Su Qianyun's eyes lit up. "Sure, I'm actually very interested in practicing swordsmanship." Su Exien nodded, then turned his gaze to Enlin and asked curiously, "Fellow cultivator, you are?" Su Qianyun slapped her forehead in a daze and said apologetically, "Oh, he's my classmate. His name is Enlin. This is my brother, Su Exien." After Su Qianyun's introduction, Enlin and Su Exien also greeted each other, then the three of them began to walk together. Afterwards, Su Exien glanced at Enlin from time to time, appearing extremely curious. His gaze made Enlin feel somewhat uncomfortable. As an experienced and knowledgeable person, he couldn't help but have a bad guess. Could it be that Su Exien was interested in him? Chapter 173. Sword Dao Master Jiang Yanan was renowned as the #1 sword prodigy in the Purple Star State. He was born to be a sword immortal. It was said that when he was born, he used his finger as a sword and severed his mother's umbilical cord. Before he even learned how to walk, he had already learned how to wield a wooden sword. When he was 3 years old, Jiang Yanan reached the second stage Dao body and became a renowned prodigy. What was even more frightening was that he could actually use a magic longsword to unleash sword intent that only cultivators of the 4th stage Dao body could unleash. A prodigy like him should have broken through to the spirit-nurturing stage before the age of 30. However, he only managed to break through at the age of 35. Why? It was because he was pondering how to perform sword kinesis flight at the Dao body rank. This was originally something that was out of this world. Sword kinesis flight required extremely precise control of vital energy. To achieve this, one had to borrow the power of a spirit root. However, Jiang Yanan did it. When he was of the 10th stage Dao body, he successfully performed sword kinesis flight. He became the first person in history to perform sword kinesis flight at the Dao body rank. After that, he accumulated a lot of experience, reaching the soul formation stage at the age of 50 and the soul formation final stage at the age of 200. Now, although his cultivation base was only of the soul formation final stage, his comprehension of the Sword Dao was even more profound than many supreme beings of the Return to Void stage. Moreover, his true intent of the sword had also reached an unimaginable level. His experiences had already become a legend in the Purple Star State, even renowned throughout the Kingdom of the Nine State. Right now, such a freakish figure was conducting a lesson on the Sword Dao at a drill ground in the Imperial Palace. On the drill ground, several hundred luxuriously dressed students sat on grass mat. They were members of the Greenwood Imperial family. Although they were only collateral relatives and not direct descendants like Su Qianyun, Su Gu, and Su Exien, their statuses were still extremely respected in the Purple Star State. At this moment, they were listening respectfully to Jiang Yanan's lesson. Some of their eyes were even burning with passion, as if they had seen their idol. They couldn't bear to look away for even a second. Jiang Yanan stood proudly on the drill ground. His handsome face was like a crown of jade, and his snow-white hair danced behind him. He had purposely dyed his hair this color because he felt that it would better accentuate his aura. As a matter of fact, the burning gazes of the hundreds of students sitting down below explained everything. Jiang Yanan smiled calmly and continued his lecture. Now that we're done with the way of the sword, let's talk about sword intent. The difference between sword intent and sword Dao is that sword Dao is the Dao that a sword immortal takes, but sword intent is the true meaning that points directly to the origins. It has a concept that can be materialized, and it can greatly increase the might of our sword moves. At this moment, Enlin, Su Qianyun, and Su Xian walked over together. The arrival of the two direct descendants of the imperial family undoubtedly attracted many people's attention. Jiang Yanan had also noticed these three people. He was just about to find someone to practice with so that he could have a negative example. At this moment, when he saw the unfamiliar Enlin, a thought occurred to him, and he said leisurely, "I have an intent realm crystal here. It can be used to implant one's true meaning into the crystal and engage in a battle of intent. This way, it can better reflect a person's grasp of the way of the sword true meaning. I see that this fellow cultivator is extraordinarily handsome. Why don't you come up here and spar with me?" Jiang Yanan extended his palm toward Enlin and made an inviting gesture. Enlin, who had originally only intended to be a bystander, was stunned by Jiang Yanan's gesture. He pointed at himself and asked, "Me?" A warm smile appeared on Jiang Yanan's face. "That's right, you. Don't worry. Even if the avatar in the intent realm crystal is destroyed, it won't cause any damage to the original body. I can even guide you according to your grasp of the way of the sword true meaning." Hearing Jiang Yanan's words, the crowd of imperial students all cast envious gazes toward Enlin. To be able to receive personal guidance from Jiang Yanan on the way of the sword true meaning, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Under such circumstances, Enlin could not refuse. He could only brace himself and walk over to Jiang Yanan's side. Jiang Yanan gazed at Enlin with a gentle gaze. For a spar and guidance of way of the sword true meaning, this young man before him was the most suitable candidate. The fact that Enlin could be so close to Su Qianyun and the others meant that they must have a very good relationship. Moreover, he must have a powerful background. If he directly invited Su Qianyun or Su Xian, it would be too blatant. However, inviting Enlin to come up and guide him would attract a lot of attention. At the same time, he would also bestow upon the imperial family a great favor. How wonderful! Jiang Yanan nodded with a satisfied expression, praising his own choice. "May I ask how I should address you, young friend?" Jiang Yanan asked. "My name is Enlin," Enlin replied with some trepidation. On the way here, he had listened to Su Qianyun's introduction of this man's glorious past. Just the fact that Jiang Yanan was able to use sword kinesis flight when he was only at the Dao body stage was enough to make him prostrate himself before him. How could he remain calm when sparring with such an awesome person? Jiang Yanan retrieved a white crystal the size of a movie screen from his storage ring. "This is the intent realm crystal," he explained. "As long as you place your hands on the crystal and insert your thoughts, your consciousness will be able to enter the interior of the crystal. At that time, the battle of sword Dao true intent within the crystal will be reflected on the surface of the crystal." After his introduction, the Greenwood imperial family disciples all gasped in amazement. Many of them were already itching to try it out for themselves. He was extremely satisfied with everyone's reaction. One had to realize that this intent realm crystal was a high-rank spirit tool, and it was the spirit tool that he was most satisfied with. Without it, the quality of his lessons would drop by quite a few notches. "Then, let's begin," Jiang Yanan said to Enlin with an amiable expression. "Just touch the crystal and direct my thoughts toward the crystal?" Enlin asked uncertainly. "That's right. Battling within the crystal is equivalent to a battle of intents. There's no danger at all." Jiang Yanan could not help but comfort Enlin again when he saw the uneasy expression on his face. The wind blew Jiang Yanan's elegant white hair, making him appear extremely fresh and handsome. He was like an extremely kind and otherworldly peerless sword immortal. This scene caused some of the surrounding students to be completely dumbfounded. They exclaimed in their hearts, "How could there be such a perfect man in this world?" And Lin placed his hand on the crystal. He felt the world spin around him, and his consciousness slowly sank into darkness. When he regained consciousness, he discovered that he had already appeared in a vast expanse of white space. Jiang Yanan was standing proudly and elegantly in front of him. Jiang Yanan carried his sword on his back, and he appeared very elegant and poised. "In this place there is no difference in cultivation base," he said in a clear voice. "The only difference is the strength of one's true intent. In this place, I have defeated countless spirit-nurturing cultivators, 28 soul formation stage sword immortals, and 3 return to void stage cultivators. I have never tasted defeat." Jiang Yanan and Lin's figures had already appeared on the intent realm crystal. Jiang Yanan's words caused the hearts of the students below to surge with excitement. Everyone's eyes burned with passion, as expected of the number 1 sword prodigy of the Purple Star State. His words were so domineering. Even Su Qianyun and Su Xian were completely focused. They watched the battle on the screen with great anticipation. They all focused their attention on Jiang Yanan, anticipating what his sword true intent would look like. As for Lin, no one thought that he would win. He was merely a sparring partner for Jiang Yanan to demonstrate his sword intent. Thus, he did not attract much attention. "Then, let us begin," Jiang Yanan said calmly as he drew his longsword. A gust of wind blew over from an unknown source, causing his elegant white hair to flutter. Like a spotlight, a holy light descended from the sky and enveloped his entire body. It made him look like an invincible god of war who stood proudly in this world. Seeing this scene, Lin's heart clenched. He instantly felt an immense pressure weighing down on him. He slowly drew his longsword and said, "All right, let us begin." Chapter 174. "Mr. Lin, why don't you make the first move? In this space, your sword intent will materialize. Make sure to combine your comprehension when you attack." Jiang Yanan held his sword in his hand as he spoke elegantly. If he made the first move, then Lin would have no chance. Hence, he asked Lin to make the first move so that he could give him some pointers. Lin nodded seriously. He thought for a moment and decided to use the wind sword of the 6 techniques of the war god. This move was one of his trump cards, so it shouldn't be too embarrassing. As soon as he thought of this, white streams of wind started to envelop his longsword. Instantly, the air currents around him started to surge. Behind him, the image of a man suddenly appeared out of thin air. This man held the heavens in his hand, stirring up the winds and clouds. Finally, he condensed the air into a sword and pointed it at Jiang Yanan. The disciples on the drill ground originally weren't paying attention to Lin. Now that they saw this grand scene, they couldn't help but focus their attention on Lin. Is this sword intent strong or weak? I don't know. This is also my first time watching a battle between sword intent. However, judging from his appearance, he seems very powerful. It's just an empty stance. In the end, it was broken by God Zhang's sword. Compared to the spectators on the drill ground who didn't know the truth, Jiang Yanan's eyes were wide open, and his face was full of shock. He was someone who had faced Lin's sword intent directly, so he could feel this kind of intent very directly. This kind of pressure that gathered the winds and clouds of heaven and earth, this kind of arrogant and domineering aura caused his entire body to tremble. Jiang Yanan knew that the person standing in front of him was definitely a prodigy. No, he was the greatest enemy of his life. "Sword, come." Jiang Yanan opened his hand and the space around him started to tremble. Immediately afterward, a pitch-black crack started to appear in the space. Endless chaos and black aura that could devour everything gathered in the sword, causing the sword to shine with a black glow as if it was going to suck and devour everything. This sword is called Terminus. It can shatter space and sever time. Jiang Yanan held the black sword in his hand and prepared to slash at Enlin. Seeing this, Enlin's eyes widened. F***ck. Didn't you say you would let me make the first move? Why are you raising your sword to chop me now? Jiang Yanan's expression was solemn, and his white hair fluttered in the wind. His posture was aloof, but he thought to himself, damn it, if I let you make the first move, I won't be able to play anymore. Just like that, Jiang Yanan charged toward Enlin with his sword of eradication glowing with a black light. With a single thought, Enlin wanted to charge toward Jiang Yanan. However, to his surprise, the illusory figure of the man behind him pounced first. The white longsword in his hand was like a supreme light that could slice through the chaos, becoming the only color in his eyes. Rumble! The killing intent exploded in the crystal space, sweeping through the surroundings. The imperial disciples on the martial arts practice field could only see the interweaving black and white colors on the screen. They could not see anything else. The two forces were like wild beasts tearing at each other. At this moment, even the dumbest person would begin to realize that this man named Enlin's sword intent was absolutely superb. A strange light appeared in Su Xian's eyes. He had seen duels of sword intent before, but this was the first time he had seen something like this. At this moment, he couldn't help but exclaim, "Fellow cultivator Enlin is indeed extraordinarily talented and extraordinary." Su Qianyun did not say anything. Her beautiful eyes were glued to the image on the crystal screen. The light slowly dissipated, and the two figures appeared on the screen once again. Both of them were extremely disheveled. Both of them were covered in wounds, and their faces were covered in dirt. Oh my God, God Jiang is injured? That's not the point. The point is that Enlin can actually fight God Jiang to this extent. Is a new sword prodigy about to be born? Many disciples stared at the figure on the crystal screen in a daze. It was as if they had seen something unbelievable. They had originally thought that Jiang Yanan could easily crush Enlin, but it looked like that was not the case. At this moment, the person who was the most shocked was Jiang Yanan, who was in the middle of the battle. Never would he have thought that a passerby whom he had randomly picked as a negative example would be so terrifying. I can't go on, I can't keep fighting. Jiang Yanan raised his proud head. A gust of wind blew through the air again, causing his elegant and smooth white hair to flutter. He looked at Enlin with a gentle gaze and said in a clear voice, "Thank you for letting me win." Enlin was dazed. What did he mean? Was it over? Seeing Enlin's reaction, Jiang Yanan's chest tightened. He continued in a leisurely manner. "I'm sure you also know that there's no point in continuing to fight like this. You've already lost. After all, that was your most powerful sword intent just now, right? I have to admit that you're really strong. I acknowledge you. However, I still have a backup plan. So, let's stop here." He still has a backup plan? Enlin was dazed again. Then, he excitedly said, "What a coincidence! I also have a backup plan. Come, let's go again." Jiang Yanan's eyes widened, and his breathing also quickened. What? He still has a backup plan? What a coincidence! What a coincidence! Fellow Taoist Enlin, losing isn't scary. Just admit it openly. Only by facing yourself squarely can you continue to surpass yourself. You're the first person to force me into this situation. It's really not embarrassing to lose. Jiang Yanan was still as graceful as ever. However, he was roaring in his heart. F***ck, I've already praised you to this extent. Don't you understand human language? Hurry up and admit defeat. Enlin nodded seriously. Thank you for your acknowledgement, fellow Taoist Jiang Yanan. However, this is a rare opportunity. I still have one last sword strike to unleash. If I don't, I'll regret it. He had already discovered that competing in sword intent here could increase his proficiency in sword technique. Furthermore, it didn't consume any vital energy. In the real world, he was unable to use the last few strikes of the 6 strikes of the war god due to the lack of vital energy in his body. However, he could do it here. Not only could he use the wind sword of the 6 strikes of the war god, but he could also use the last strike. Since that was the case, why not seize this opportunity to experience it for himself? Veins bulged on Jiang Yanan's forehead as he glared at Enlin. He felt as if a mouthful of blood was about to form in his chest. 6 strikes of the war god, 6th form, divine sword. A divine light flashed in Enlin's eyes. Instantly, a boundless might swept through heaven and earth. A dazzling golden light with a supreme divine might crashed into the surrounding space. Boom! A terrifying mighty force tore through space and crushed everything in this world. Before the sword had even been unleashed, Jiang Yanan and Enlin's bodies were swept into it. The crystal screen was once again engulfed by a golden light. Everyone on the drill ground stared at this scene in astonishment. Crack! A crisp sound rang out from within the crystal. The intent realm crystal had cracked open. Enlin and Jiang Yanan's consciousness returned. Both of them sat paralyzed on the ground with cold sweat pouring down their bodies. Outside the arena, the Imperial disciples all stared blankly at the cracked crystal and the 2 people who had returned. They fell into a strange silence. Second brother, a battle of sword intents can actually crack the intent realm crystal? Su Qianyun stared at Enlin in astonishment. Su Xian grimaced. Don't ask me. I've never seen anything like this. Jiang Yanan heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Enlin's consciousness had also returned. It could be said that the battle had ended in a draw. He was still the undefeated sword god, Jiang Yanan. Then, he discovered that all the spectating disciples were staring at the crystal in a daze. It was as if they had seen something inconceivable. He curiously turned his gaze toward the intent realm crystal. His vision darkened, and he almost fainted from fright. My crystal! His show-off weapon cracked, destroyed. Jiang Yanan's eyes widened. His lips trembled, and tears welled up in the corners of his eyes. He was crying. Chapter 175. Enlin also saw the cracked crystal, and he stood rooted to the spot, stupefied. Did he do it? I think he did it, but why did it crack? He didn't say that it would crack. Then, he saw Jiang Yanan, who had tears in his eyes. He instantly felt guilty and apologized. I'm sorry, Mr. Jiang Yanan. I really didn't do it on purpose. I didn't think that such a powerful sword intent would result in this. Hearing Enlin's apology, Jiang Yanan, who was on the verge of breaking down, almost spat out a mouthful of blood. On the drill ground, the Imperial disciples all came to their senses and came to a sudden realization. So, if one sword intent was too powerful, the intent realm crystal would crack. Su Xian also nodded thoughtfully. It seemed like this was the only explanation for what had just happened. But in this case, Jiang Yanan's sword intent hadn't cracked the crystal, but Enlin's sword intent had. Didn't this mean that the final victor of this battle was Enlin? Jiang Yanan also realized this problem. The situation gradually spiraled out of control. Everyone on the drill ground had already started discussing spiritedly. Some Greenwood Imperial family disciples looked at Enlin with fervent eyes, as if they were witnessing the birth of a new legend. Some disciples even looked suspiciously at Jiang Yanan, suspecting that he was a fake Jiang Yanan, who had never tasted defeat, had never been in such a situation before. Was he really going to lose to a cultivator of the spirit-nurturing stage, who was just passing by? If news of this got out, how could he, God Jiang, continue living? No. I can't let this happen. Jiang Yanan took a deep breath, and a refreshing smile once again appeared on his face. He said gently to Enlin, Mr. Enlin, you don't need to apologize. This is actually my mistake. This intent realm crystal has been in disrepair for many years, and it has already reached the point where it should be discarded. Enlin blinked. Is that so? Jiang Yanan said loudly, of course. Do you know why I didn't dare to use my full strength during the battle? It was because I was afraid that it would shatter. As he said this, he punched the intent realm crystal. Boom! The crystal shattered with a loud bang, transforming into shards that glowed with a white light. The ground was littered with crystal shards, and his heart was also shattered into pieces. Look, it can't take it anymore. Let's consider this battle a draw. Let's fight again another day. Jiang Yanan squeezed out a smile and said to Enlin. Enlin pointed at the shattered crystals on the floor. In other words, I don't need to compensate you with anything, right? The sorrow in Jiang Yanan's heart flowed like a river when he heard this. However, there was a smile on his face. You must be joking, fellow Taoist Enlin. This was my mistake. How could I let you compensate me? Enlin looked at Jiang Yanan gratefully. Brother Jiang is such a good person. Realization dawned on all the disciples in the martial arts arena. So it was all the crystal's fault, causing Jiang Yanan to not dare to use his full strength. But even so, he still determined that his battle with Enlin was a draw. As expected of the number 1 sword immortal prodigy of the Purple Star State. Just like that, Jiang Yanan once again received everyone's reverent gazes. He stood in the middle of the crowd with his hands clasped behind his back and a warm smile on his face. A light breeze blew over from an unknown source, causing his snow-like hair to flutter in the wind. He appeared graceful and ethereal. This sparring of sword intent would eventually become a legend in the Purple Star State, the birth of a new generation sword immortal, Enlin. The number 1 sword immortal, Jiang Yanan, was like a spring breeze and rain. Just like that, Enlin was invited off the stage by Jiang Yanan. Although Jiang Yanan's heart was bleeding, he still had to continue teaching. Thus, he continued to lecture on the techniques of sword intent and how to use it. Instruct Enlin on the spot? If Enlin was an ordinary spirit-nurturing cultivator, he might have done so. But now, he really didn't have the face to do such a thing. Enlin returned to Su Qianyun's side and breathed a sigh of relief. This passerby was really full of twists and turns. He went too far and broke the intent realm crystal. He thought that he would have to pay spirit stones. Thankfully, Jiang Yanan was a good person who was understanding and understanding. Just this alone gave Enlin a very good impression of him. Classmate Enlin, your swordsmanship has become so powerful. In the future, if I encounter any problems I don't understand in the way of the sword, will I be able to come and ask you? A soft and mellow voice sounded in his ear again, causing his heart to soften and feel comfortable. Enlin looked toward Su Qianyun and saw her breathtakingly beautiful features. There was an expression of reverence on her face as she gazed at him with her vibrant, bright blue eyes. My God! She's so beautiful and adorable! Enlin blushed and averted his gaze. He scratched his head sheepishly. Of course you can come and ask me. Classmates should help each other. It had to be said, the feeling of being worshipped as a sword immortal was really exhilarating. He was very glad that his swordsmanship had reached a certain level. Fortunately, the system's moves weren't like the 6 bricks of the war god. Otherwise, the feeling of exhilaration would definitely be much lower. For example, a conversation with Su Qianyun might very well become, Classmate Enlin, your brick is really powerful. In the future, if I want to carry bricks, can I come and ask you how to smash the back of someone's head with a brick? Listen. This feeling of exhilaration and pretentiousness had instantly dropped by several levels. Just as he was feeling a bit bashful and smug at the same time, Su Xian also walked over. Mr. Enlin is truly a dragon among men. Your profound attainments in the Tao of the Sword are truly admirable. You flatter me, fellow Su Xian, you flatter me. Enlin waved his hand in embarrassment. At this moment, a voice sounded in his mind. Fellow cultivator Enlin, I have something to discuss with you in private. This voice was transmitted to his mind by Su Xian's secret sound transmission. Hearing this, Lin felt a little uneasy. He didn't understand what was so secretive about, but he still nodded and replied with secret sound transmission, "Fellow cultivator Su Xian, please speak." "Fellow cultivator Lin, are you close to Yunlu? From what I remember, she almost never interacted with other unfamiliar men, and she would never personally bring them into the palace." Su Xian's indifferent voice sounded again. Hearing this, Lin's heart trembled. Could it be that Su Xian specifically came to warn him? Or could it be that this was an azure field from her brother's interrogation? His thoughts quickly turned, but he didn't deny it. Instead, he continued to transmit his voice and honestly replied, "Yes, she and I can be considered relatively good friends." Su Xian's voice sounded again. "Then do you want to pursue her?" Hearing this, Lin's body trembled. F***ck. Such a direct question, can't you be more tactful? "Of course," he honestly replied. "I don't want to. We are just ordinary friends." A Siscon was a terrifying existence. If he answered, "I want to pursue her," Lin felt that he wouldn't be able to walk out of the Greenwood Palace. Perhaps he would become a pile of spring mud that nourished all living things. Why don't you reconsider? In terms of appearance, Yunlu is unparalleled. In terms of talent, she has even received the approval of a true god. Moreover, she is so pure and kind. Where can I find such a good girl? Su Xian's voice sounded again. "Yes, don't worry, I won't pursue her, wait." Halfway through his sentence, Lin's pupils shrank. He rubbed his ears and stared at Su Xian in a daze. Did I hear wrong? Why do I feel like something is wrong? Fellow cultivator Su Xian, you mean you want me to pursue your sister? Lin's breathing quickened and he asked with uncertainty. Su Xian smiled lightly. "Yes, do you want to pursue her or not? If you do, I can help you. Even take the initiative to help?" Hearing this, Lin's body swayed. "Awesome, my brother." "Pui. Awesome, Su Qianyun's brother." Chapter 176. These shocking words reverberated in Lin's ears. He was stunned for a full 10 seconds. Then, he carefully sized up the man in front of him. His appearance was a little similar to Su Qianyun's, so he should be her biological brother then. Here came the question. Have you ever seen a biological brother help someone else chase after his sister? This sister of his wasn't some dinosaur. Instead, she was a perfect woman who didn't need to worry about marriage. So, was this a distortion of human nature or a loss of morals? Lin sorted out his F***-up thoughts and transmitted his voice to Su Xian in a serious manner. "Mr. Su Xian, you're joking, right?" Su Xian. "Sigh, now that things have come to this, I won't hide it anymore." Su Xian sighed. "You know Chang'e, right?" Lin nodded solemnly. "I suspect. Chang'e has led Yunli's sexual orientation astray. So, I urgently need someone to help Yunlu establish the correct outlook on life and love," Su Xian said slowly as he looked at Lin with anticipation in his eyes. Lin was momentarily dazed upon hearing this. Then, he fell into deep thought. It had to be said. Lin had actually noticed this problem a long time ago. However, he didn't take it to heart. Or rather, he didn't dare to take it to heart. Who was Chang'e? She was the #1 beauty in the celestial court. Forget about that. Who was Chang'e? She was the Moon Palace Lord, a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the Return to Void stage. Her status in the celestial court was second only to the 6 emperors. She was an existence that Lin couldn't afford to offend. What could Lin think? He didn't dare to interfere in this matter at all. Lin didn't even dare to share with Su Qianyun the common knowledge that kissing wouldn't lead to pregnancy. But now, he wanted Lin to steal Chang'e's beloved Su Qianyun? Being alive was obviously very good. Why did he have to take things too hard? Seeing Lin's hesitant expression, Su Xian thought that he was feeling inferior and immediately encouraged him. "Student Lin, You've reached the spirit-nurturing stage at such a young age, and your mastery of the sword Tao is unparalleled in the entire state. Only a man with such extraordinary talent is worthy of Yun Lo, so I'm very supportive of your relationship. Su Xian's praise made Enlin very happy, but happiness couldn't be eaten. He still wanted to live well, so he righteously rejected Su Xian's good intentions. Enlin's expression was solemn, but Su Xian's expression was one of disappointment as he let out a heavy sigh. Second brother, what did you say to Enlin? Su Qianyun had long since noticed Su Xian and Enlin's expressions. She knew that they were communicating telepathically, so she asked curiously. Enlin looked at her beautiful face. Her face was so tender that he couldn't help but want to pinch it, as well as her dreamy eyes. He had to admit that she was really moving. However, his life was still the most important thing. As for the phrase that people often said, "You'll make a fortune in 3 years, and you won't lose out on a death sentence. If you really were to be sentenced to death, let's see if you'd make a loss or not." This was already the 3rd time that Enlin had reminded himself like this. He couldn't lose his sense of propriety. He turned his gaze towards Jiang Yanan again. As for the explanation, it was better to leave it to his good brother, Su Xian. Jiang Yanan's method of training sword intent, as well as techniques for how to use sword intent to increase the power of sword techniques, had a lot to learn. At the very least, Enlin benefited greatly from listening to his teachings. After the lesson, Enlin and Su Qianyun left the drill grounds. There were still 4 days until the mechanical puppet's energy source was delivered, so Enlin had been fooling around in the Imperial Palace. During these 4 days, Su Xian went to look for Enlin a few times, asking if Enlin wanted to pursue his sister. "Pursue your sister? No way." This was Enlin's reply. "Not pursuing? Oh, then I'll come ask again later." Su Xian wasn't discouraged. The next day. "Have you thought it through? Do you want to pursue my sister? I can help you." Su Xian had an expectant expression. "I've thought it through. No way." Enlin was very determined. Su Xian. On the 3rd day, Su Xian came again. "Su Xian, are you going to pursue her?" Enlin. "Even if Liang Jingru gave me the courage, I still wouldn't have the guts to pursue her." Su Xian was dumbfounded. "What did you say?" Enlin. "No way." Su Xian. On the 4th day. It was time to pick up the goods. Enlin and Su Qianyun held Dabai and Shemon's hands as they walked excitedly toward the research lab. Once the door opened, colorful lights began to shine in all directions. Professor Yang was dressed in a white robe and stood in the middle of the research room in a refined manner. He bowed to the princess and said in a calm but excited tone, "Welcome, all of you. It's time for us to witness a miracle." As he spoke, he lifted the white cloth, and a silver-colored mechanical puppet appeared in Enlin's field of vision. It stood upright on the ground, and in the center of its structure, its energy source exuded a faint golden glow. A pulsating aura of life spread in all directions, making it one with nature. It was like a living being, full of vitality and rhythm. Perfect. Enlin stared intently at the mechanical puppet in front of him and couldn't help but praise it. This mechanical puppet had completed a type of transformation. It had transformed from an inanimate object into a spirit object. Their bloodline connection allowed him to give orders to this mechanical puppet. This was a sign that the spirit net had been successfully activated. "Punch!" Enlin ordered. The Gundam received the order and immediately began to swing its fist. Its movements were agile and its punches were fierce. Its punches weren't messy and chaotic. Instead, they were very intricate and profound fist technique. This might be because the mechanical puppet's internal system already had a set of related fist techniques stored in it. "Dance!" Enlin continued with a smile. Upon hearing the order, the Gundam's entire body began to tremble, and a high-pitched song was played. Immediately afterward, The mechanical parts and joints of its body began to move to the beat of the music. This could be said to be a perfect mechanical dance. Its movements were handsome and cool, and it was full of a mechanical feeling. Unlin's heart rate accelerated as he watched. Perfect, it was too perfect. Even Professor Yang and Su Qianyun were staring intently at the Gundam's dance. They felt that it was both novel and shocking. After the dance, Unlin held the metallic Gundam tightly in his arms. "Your name is Gundam 1 from now on," he exclaimed excitedly. The mechanical puppet nodded, but it didn't seem to understand. Professor Yang's chest tightened. He was extremely pained to give such a perfect piece of art such a casual name. Professor Yang handed the other core to Unlin. Unlin excitedly installed the core onto the other mechanical puppet. That mechanical puppet was also activated. "From now on, your name is Gundam 2. He gave it a name that Professor Yang couldn't bear to look at. "What a waste, what a waste!" Professor Yang lamented. Unlin's naming was like Da Vinci naming his painting Mona Lisa, Flower Maiden, after much difficulty. This was simply a waste of a work of art. Unlin was completely oblivious to this. He placed Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 into his storage ring with a satisfied expression and expressed his gratitude to Professor Yang once again. If this mechanical puppet is used in battle, it can only be maintained for 2 hours. After the energy within the energy core is depleted, it will require 10,000 spirit stones to be recharged, Professor Yang added. Unlin nodded. This was a small fee that he could afford. Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 would be one of his life-saving trump cards in the future. One more thing. The energy core I created can only activate about 20% of the mechanical puppet's abilities. I will create a more complete energy core for you in the future, Professor Yang continued. Unlin looked at Professor Yang with gratitude. His skills were limited, and he didn't expect to be able to create an energy core that could activate 100% of the mechanical puppet's abilities. In reality, he was already very satisfied that 20% of the mechanical puppet's abilities could be activated. Now, Professor Yang volunteered to help him improve the energy core. He was naturally extremely grateful and overjoyed. "Take good care of Daybreak and Daybreak." Professor Yang patted Unlin's shoulder. "What?" Unlin was slightly dazed. "I'm talking about the names of your 2 mechanical puppets," Professor Yang said in a meaningful and heartfelt voice. He decided to use a gentle and suggestive method to change this young man's mind. "Don't give them random names. I think Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 are the best," Unlin said solemnly. Professor Yang. Chapter 177. After exiting the laboratory, Unlin and Su Qianyun began to take a leisurely stroll. Unlin was in a good mood after learning that Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 had been reborn. He hummed a tune as he strode forward. Even the sunlight seemed to warm him up a little. "Student Unlin, are you going to leave this place?" Su Qianyun remembered that Unlin had told her that he would return to the Celestial Court as soon as the mechanical puppet's energy source was ready. Unlin nodded. "That's right. There are only a few more days before school starts. There are some things that I need to prepare in advance." The main reason was that Su Xian's relentless pursuit was a little too much for him to handle. Otherwise, Unlin wouldn't be willing to leave so early if he could eat and play in the Imperial Palace like a vacation paradise. Then, he bumped into a handsome man on the road. "What a coincidence, Mr. Unlin." Su Xian waved at him with a smile. Unlin's lips twitched. Why didn't Su Xian greet Su Qianyun first? Why did he greet him first? An ominous premonition suddenly welled up in his heart. "I heard that you're going back to school. I didn't prepare anything, so I'll give you a small gift." Su Xian handed a wooden box to Unlin as he spoke. Wow, second brother actually gave a gift to student Unlin. Su Qianyun covered her mouth in surprise as if she had seen something incredible. Unlin was a little uneasy, but he couldn't just reject a gift from someone else. With this in mind, He could only grit his teeth and accept the wooden box while expressing his gratitude. Su Xian patted Lin's shoulder with an encouraging look in his eyes. Lin. He had a feeling that whatever was inside the wooden box was definitely not something good. If he had a choice, he really didn't want to accept this gift. Lin rode on Dabai's back and flew into the sky after bidding farewell to Su Qianyun and Su Exen. High up in the sky, Lin took out a wooden box from his storage ring as he watched the green wood imperial palace gradually disappear into the distance. He looked at this thing that was like Pandora's box and fell into silence. Why not just throw it away? A thought flashed through his mind. No, what if it was something important in the end? Curiosity overcame reason. He slowly opened the wooden box. What caught his eye was a letter that exuded a faint fragrance. Love letter? Lin slowly unfolded the letter, and the first sentence appeared in front of him. Lin's brother-in-law, I believe you will be very surprised when you read this letter. As soon as he read the first sentence, his hand trembled and he almost dropped the letter. Su Xian was right. Lin was very surprised when he received the letter. After reading the content, he was horrified. Lin's brother-in-law? Go to hell with your sister. As expected, it was better to throw the wooden box away. Lin raised the wooden box. After a while, he slowly put it down. Before throwing it away, let's see what he said first. His reason was once again defeated by curiosity. He slowly unfolded the letter and continued to read. I'll call you brother-in-law, please don't be surprised. There was no surprise, only horror. After all, you are the man who is closest to Yunlo, and you have the best chance of defeating Chang Yi. Perhaps in the future, you really might become my brother-in-law. This sentence about defeating Chang Yi was even more horrifying than the previous sentence. I feel that Lin, even if you don't want to pursue Yunlu now, you will definitely be moved in the future. After all, Yunlu is such a perfect woman, isn't she? This has nothing to do with perfection. After adding the perfect halo, the next part should be the main topic. Lin's guess was correct. The next part was indeed the main topic. When you want to pursue Yunlu, she will already be far away in the celestial court. As your brother-in-law, I can't help you even if I wanted to, so I specially wrote down this information in hopes that it will be of some help to you. Yun Li's birthday is, her favorite animal is, her favorite food is, her favorite thing to do in the morning is, her favorite thing to do in the afternoon is, her favorite thing to do in the evening is, her favorite thing to do in the evening is, her favorite thing to do is to practice swordsmanship. Don't be fooled by her moonlight disk. She is also a woman who dreams of becoming a sword immortal. So, brother-in-law, you have a good chance. She also has some things that she hates, such as an overly noisy environment. Although she is not good with words, she is a person who likes to chat. Brother-in-law can only help you this much. If it still doesn't work, then it proves that you two are not fated to be together, and I won't interfere too much. Finally, I wish you all the best. Lin silently finished reading the letter and fell into silence again. He had to admit that this brother really worried about his sister's marriage. Lin's heart was deeply moved. He was a little afraid. He was afraid that he knew too much as he thought of this. His palm began to emit a raging fire, burning the wooden box and the letter into ashes. The physical evidence was gone. However, the information was already in his mind and could not be forgotten. What should he do? Sigh. Lin shook his head helplessly, his face full of melancholy. Sometimes it was not a good thing to be too smart. Celestial Court, Xiuxian United University's teleportation portal. Lin's figure gradually appeared amidst a flash of white light. The miniature clown and Dabai appeared together with him. Lin looked at the familiar surroundings and the rich vital energy around him. He could not help but take a deep breath, and his entire body felt refreshed. He had only been away from the university for less than a month, but he felt like he had been away for a long time. Hey Lin, Dubai. A somewhat familiar voice suddenly sounded. Lin turned around and saw a slightly chubby man with dark skin looking at him with a joyful expression. F***ck. Lu Debao? How did you become so dark? Lin's eyes widened as he looked at the man in front of him with a shocked expression. In his memory, Lu Debao was a fair-skinned and muscular man. How did he become an African uncle after not seeing him for a while? Sigh. I'm going to cry if I talk about this. Lu Debao massaged his brows with a pained expression. My father forced me to cultivate that divine sun technique, which requires me to bask in the sun for a month. I didn't do anything during this month of vacation. I just lay on the beach every day like a salted fish, turning over every half a day. Lin burst out laughing upon hearing this. He felt like after the photosynthesis expert Xiao Hong woke up, he would have many things to talk about with Lu Debao. He then saw Lu Debao's mood suddenly plummet and he looked like he was about to burst into tears. He immediately apologized. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. It would have been better if he hadn't apologized, but when he did, Lu Debao's face darkened, even though his face was already dark. Lu Debao heaved a forlorn sigh before turning to Lin. What about you? What did you do during your vacation? Lin thought for a moment before replying honestly, that's a bit much. I went to the mythological beast sect first, then to the vermilion bird sect, then to the abyss of evil to kill sinister devils. After that, I went to the 10,000 spirits immortal sect to find Xianyuan Qing, and I even encountered the high priestess of the holy glacial lands trying to steal my man. Finally, I went to the Greenwood Imperial Palace. Lu Debao. Lin noticed that Lu Debao's expression was a little off, and he asked with concern, Huh? What's wrong? Lu Debao clasped a hand over his chest and shook his head. It's nothing, I just feel a little uncomfortable. Just leave me alone. He waved a hand to indicate that he didn't need to worry too much. Lin nodded as a yearning expression appeared on his face. A new year was about to arrive. He was going to cultivate hard and improve every day during this year. Chapter 178. The new school year arrived. Lin's school was moved to a place called the White Wing School District. This was a school district for second-year students. The new batch of male idols streamed through the school gates, all of them brimming with youthfulness. The day before the official start of the school year, Lin returned to the school gates, feeling a bit melancholic. Before he knew it, a year had passed when he first came here. He was still a mortal who knew nothing. Outside the gates, he met the first cultivator friend of his life, Su Xiaolan. He couldn't help but chuckle when he thought of how the two of them were completely at odds with each other. One of them spoke Mandarin, while the other spoke the strange Tai Chu language. He continued forward and arrived at a small plaza. This place wasn't big, but it was crowded with thousands of students. A huge black stone slab stood in the middle of the crowd, emitting a white light from time to time. This was a stone used to measure cultivation base. Thinking back, the famous title of Most Backdoor Entrant was obtained from this very place. Lin smiled faintly. He was already a cultivator of the spirit-nurturing stage now. Although his skill tree was a bit skewed and he only condensed a beast core, he had at least made a comeback. What a pity, no one stepped out to trample on him back then. Otherwise, he would be able to slap them in the face right now. The black stone slab emitted a dazzling white light, and a huge number of words appeared. Dao Body, 10th Stage. A commotion broke out among the crowd, and all kinds of comments appeared. Wow, so impressive! Wow, what a genius! And so on. Yao Xiao, Class 1. A deep and resonant voice sounded. Oh yeah! A girl in a green dress cheered happily. She knew that she could definitely enter Class 1, but she still couldn't control her emotions and expressed her joy wantonly in a joyful manner. This girl's skin was fair and delicate, and she had shoulder-length ponytails, giving her a youthful and energetic appearance. To be honest, it was extremely rare for female cultivators to have ponytails, so Lin took a few more glances at her. Right at this moment, the black stone slab emitted another dazzling white light. Then, the entire crowd erupted, causing a huge commotion. This was because the words on the stone slab were, Spirit Nurturing Stage, Initial Stage. Yao Mingxi, Class 1. The voice rang out again. So he is the black and white sword sex #1 genius, Yao Mingxi. Yao Xiao and Yao Mingxi are siblings, right? Their aptitude is too monstrous. It must be inherited. They have long been famous in the spirit sword state. They are all geniuses who can communicate with the ancient sword steel. We're in the final stages of the examination. I thought that we wouldn't even have a single spirit nurturing stage cultivator in this cohort. Thankfully, we have Yao Mingxi. Ah, Yao Mingxi is so handsome. Some fangirls couldn't help but start cheering loudly. Yao Mingxi was dressed in a black robe. He had a handsome appearance and a cold expression, making him seem unapproachable. He calmly left the crowd. Yao Xiao quickly ran over, giggling as she held onto his arm. She said in a sweet voice, "You're really worthy of being my blood brother. You're definitely the #1 of this year's freshmen." Yao Mingxi smiled warmly. However, his eyes were looking into the distance. Little Xiao, we shouldn't just focus on this cohort of freshmen. We should set our sights on the entire university. Yao Xiao's bright eyes flashed with excitement. Brother is right. The #1 on the Immortal Rankings board, Wang Xuanzhan, has reached the soul formation stage in his 5th year. This kind of unparalleled talent is what we should strive for. Yao Mingxi smiled lightly. Wang Xuanzhan is indeed very powerful. However, did you know that there is a legendary figure in the university? You've only just arrived, so you haven't heard of him. He's the person I admire. Yao Xiao's small mouth gaped slightly. Who is it? Apart from Wang Xuanzhan, there didn't seem to be anyone else in the university who was of this rank. She was really curious as to who it was that made the arrogant Yao Mingxi admire him. Let me tell you about him. Yao Mingxi's eyes burned with passion. A rare expression of yearning appeared on his cold face. My idol. He was only of the Zeroth stage Dao body when he first entered the university. Yao Xiao was dazed upon hearing this. Her large, lively eyes blinked. In the short span of a year, guess what rank he's reached now? Yao Mingxi asked. Yao Xiao's small, delicate face recovered slightly from her shock. She started guessing the most impressive rank she could think of. 10th stage Dao body? Yao Mingxi shook his head. He's of the spirit nurturing stage. Spirit nurturing stage? Yao Xiao could no longer remain calm. Her small chest rose and fell violently. In the short span of a year, he cultivated from the Zeroth stage Dao body to the spirit nurturing stage? Compared to this, had she, the self-proclaimed prodigy of the spirit sword state, lived the past 18 years like a dog? But this is only one of his many feats. Do you know that during the free-for-all battle, he was only at the Dao body stage, but he defeated Wang Xuanzhan, who was ranked first on the Immortal Rankings board, with a single finger? Yao Mingxi continued. He defeated Wang Xuanzhan with a single finger? Yao Xiao stammered, her face full of disbelief. Not only that, but when he descended into the mortal world to carry out a mission, the Dark Knight monarch of the Dark Wing tribe suddenly descended and was slain by him with a single sword strike. Yao Mingxi became more and more excited as he spoke. Those who can be referred to as monarchs in the Dark Wing tribe are all supreme beings of the Return to Void stage. Heavens! Yao Xiao was so shocked that her body trembled. She was actually a little dazed. If it wasn't for the fact that this big brother of hers, who never joked, she definitely wouldn't believe it. Xiao, tell me, isn't this senior a living legend? Is he worthy of worship? Yao Mingxi's eyes burned with passion and his breathing quickened. Yao Xiao could no longer suppress her feelings of worship. Big brother, who is he? Yao Mingxi, His name is Lin. He's a second-year senior. Yao Xiao was excited. Senior Lin, is it? Let's go find him today. Let's go make friends. Yao Mingxi nodded. I think so too, but we can't be too presumptuous. We have to give Senior a good first impression. How about the two of us perform a sword dance for him? Yao Xiao suggested after thinking for a moment. The problem is, does he like sword dances? Little Xiao, your singing is very good. How about you sing a song for him, and I perform the sword dance? That way, as long as he likes one, we'll be friends. Yao Mingxi suggested. What if he doesn't like either? Yao Xiao was a little concerned. If he doesn't like either, then we'll use force. Yao Mingxi's eyes burned with passion. How do we do that? Yao Xiao's delicate features were flushed with excitement. Yao Mingxi gritted his teeth. Even if we can't become friends, we have to make him remember us. We can ask him what he likes first, then try to cater to his taste. If he still refuses, then we'll pester him and refuse to leave until he acknowledges us. Yao Xiao's eyes lit up. We also have to ask for his autograph, take a photo with him, and exchange voice transmission talismans. Yes, just like that. Let's go to the White Wing District. Yao Mingxi nodded firmly. Yes, big brother. Yao Xiao was impatient. Just like that, the brother and sister rushed to the White Wing District in high spirits with excitement on their faces. At the spot where they had been standing, Lin's lips twitched, and his expression darkened. He had heard the entire conversation without missing a single word. His mood had also changed from the initial complacency to the current pain in his liver. After a moment of silence, he decided to run in the opposite direction of the two siblings. Chapter 179. Night fell, and Lin returned to his room after wandering around for the entire day. It's already so late. Tomorrow is the first day of school, so the siblings should have already left. He sighed lightly. Who would have thought that becoming famous would be such a troublesome thing? He opened the door to his room, and it was pitch black inside. Gotcha! The room was suddenly illuminated, and two well-dressed people appeared in his field of vision. The man was dressed in a black robe, and he was cool and handsome. The woman was dressed in a green robe, and she was delicate and adorable. Surprise! The two of them yelled in unison. The man pulled out a longsword as he spoke. Senior Lin, I'm Yao Mingxi from first-year class 1, the man said. Hubby! I'm Yao Xiao from first-year class 1. The woman's eyes lit up. The man's lips twitched. Xiao be more reserved. The woman stuck out her tongue in a mischievous manner, then stared intently at Lin. Lin was dumbstruck. What the f***ck? These two ran into his room and squatted there? That was way too terrifying. Please enjoy the performance we've meticulously prepared for you, the two of them said in unison. A great river wide waves, the wind blows through the paddy fields, the fragrance of the two banks. My home is here. Yao Xiao's crisp and sweet voice sounded. Yao Mingxi also began to perform a sword dance. As the sword danced, vital energy flowed along with the rhythm like waves. It was both beautiful and artistic, and Lin's mouth gaped open as he stared blankly at the two lunatics singing and dancing in his room. After a few minutes, the two of them looked at Lin with anticipation in their eyes. Senior Lin, did you like the performance we prepared for you? Yao Mingxi asked nervously as he looked at Lin. In order to let you experience the warmth of home, Xiao even went to learn songs from the mortal world. Yao Xiao stared at Lin with tears in her big, bright eyes, as if she was begging him to praise her. Lin's face convulsed. In order to let him feel the warmth of home, they sang My Motherland? Awesome. I really enjoyed your performance. It's getting late, go back and rest. He squeezed out a smile and said to the two of them. Ah, really? Do you really like it? Yao Xiao stared at Lin. Her breathing quickened as she approached him. Lin retreated step by step, goosebumps rising all over his body. As long as Senior likes it, Us siblings will come here every day to sing and dance for you. Yao Mingxi followed Yao Xiu's lead and approached Enlin, staring at him with passionate eyes. There's no need to go through so much trouble. I'm already very satisfied. Enlin immediately refused. It's no trouble at all, the two of them said in unison with excited expressions. Enlin roared in his heart, you guys aren't troublesome, but I am. Senior Enlin, can you give us your autograph? All right, Enlin signed their names on the hilts of their swords. This was something that a sword cultivator valued the most. It had to be said that these two siblings had really become his die-hard fans. Senior Enlin, this is my voice transmission talisman. Can you leave me your contact number? All right, Enlin left an imprint on their voice transmission talisman. He was going all out in order to get rid of these two crazy fans. Senior Enlin, can we move into your room? All right. Oh F***ck off. F***ck off, this is getting more and more outrageous. In a fit of rage, Enlin let Dabai out and chased them out. Senior Enlin, we'll be back. Yao Mingxi yelled as he ran. Love you, Senior, see you tomorrow. Yao Xiu yelled. Enlin. At this moment the window of the neighboring attic opened. The girl looked to the side and saw Enlin standing at the door with a dark expression on his face. She smiled sweetly and teased. Congratulations, Enlin. You've gained 2 cute fans. Enlin turned around and looked at Su Xiaolan, who was cupping her cheeks and smiling adorably. He sighed. Don't make fun of me. If fans can transfer gift, I'll send them away even if I have to pay for them. To be honest, he had been tormented by these two die-hard fans. They were afraid that they would suddenly jump out and sing and dance at him. In order to prevent this from happening, he set up an alarm spell formation around the house. The alarm would sound the moment a stranger stepped foot on the house. After making sure everything was in place, he closed his eyes and went to sleep. However, right after he closed his eyes, his voice transmission talisman suddenly trembled and emitted a faint light. Enlin was puzzled. He picked up the voice transmission talisman. Hello? Who is it? A gentle voice came from the voice transmission talisman. Senior, it's me, Xiu. Enlin blinked. What's up? Yao Xiu, are you asleep? Enlin. What do you think? Yao Xiu. Oh, good night then, he. Enlin's mouth twitched and he silently hung up. He didn't expect that he would be tricked one day. Speaking of which, this voice transmission talisman didn't have a function to turn off the phone or reject calls. Sure enough, the phone was the best. He fell asleep again in a sullen mood. The moon set and the sun rose. The next morning, Enlin woke up. Once again, he entered the familiar classroom. There were familiar teachers and familiar classmates. The curriculum was a little different from that of his first year. There were still public lessons in the morning and specialized courses in the afternoon. The specialized courses were divided into 6 categories: pill refinement, weapon refinement, array formations, magic treasure techniques, immortal spells, and divine soul. The students would choose the category they liked based on their interests and specialized in it. Enlin hesitated for a long time. Pill refinement and tool refinement were not attractive to him at all. In any case, he had so much money. He could buy immortal pills if he wanted to eat them, and he already had 1 or 2 immortal tools. He didn't lack these 2 things, and unlike a certain Xiaohua, he could use pill refinement to show off. Thus, he didn't need to worry about these 2 major subjects. As for array formations, they were far too complicated, and it would take too much time and effort to master them. Furthermore, setting up formations was troublesome, and he had the divine inspection technique to break them. There was no need to panic, so he wasn't in a hurry. As for magic treasure techniques, after observing the 6 strikes of the war god, Enlin's grasp of swordsmanship and sword intent was already very strong. There was no room for improvement, so he didn't need to consider this. The Immortal Spells class was to learn how to use immortal spells efficiently, as well as some practical immortal spells. There was also a class to guide students on how to create their own immortal spells. It sounded very good, but Enlin was already a sword immortal. No matter how many immortal spells he had, he would be able to break them with a single sword strike. He was already focusing on the sword, so what was the point of playing with immortal spells? Wasn't that just tormenting himself? The last class was the Divine Soul class. It talked about the use of one's divine sense, the strengthening of one's divine sense, and the use of one's divine sense to capture the enemy's movements. It seemed like the divine inspection technique could do this as well. Enlin stroked his chin and frowned slightly. He was hesitant. He discovered a very serious problem. That's right, he felt so powerful now. He felt like he didn't need to learn anything. Chapter 180. After thinking about it, Enlin finally decided to let the heavens decide his specialization. He took out a die. 1 was for pill refinement, 2 were for tool refinement, 3 were for spell formations, 4 were for magic treasure techniques, 5 were for immortal spells, and 6 were for consciousness. He tossed the die into the air, dropped it, and rolled until it was 5 points up. If this is the will of the heavens, then I'll choose immortal spells. Coincidentally, Su Xiaolan had also chosen an immortal spell class. However, she played with fire anyway, so there was nothing wrong with choosing immortal spells. There were 100 students in their class, and 26 of them chose immortal spells. It seemed like this class was quite popular, and the teacher in charge of teaching them immortal spells was the white-haired Dioscorea cancongensis. Back then, Enlin had suffered a lot because of the Tsang Qing brand sleeping pills. Now, he had turned things around and was able to listen to the class with his classmates with great interest. He could also laugh with everyone when they listed the funny points. This was all blood and tears of hard work. Only Enlin, as the person involved, could deeply understand the bitterness. On an open hillside, this became the teaching location for immortal spells. Many students sat in a circle around the room. Earth Immortal Tsang Qing stood in the center and lectured enthusiastically on the theory of immortal spells. Low-level immortal spells have form, while high-level immortal spells have form and intent. The intent within is the intent. By fusing the intent into the immortal spell, it can give the immortal spell spirituality and growth potential. Enlin listened to Dioscorea cancongensis and began his practical practice. He was still a long way off from creating a powerful immortal technique. However, if he wanted to modify an immortal technique, he could still give it a try. The immortal spells he was more familiar with were the Mountain Quaking Fist and the Lightning Manipulation Technique. As for the 6 strikes of the War God, it was already quite perfect and contained true intent, so he didn't even need to think about improving it. Should he guide the lightning to the Mountain Quaking Fist and use the Lightning Mountain Quaking Fist? Enlin's eyes lit up and he did as he said. After Tsang Qing's lecture, it was time for free practice. He found an empty space and started to modify the celestial technique according to the method taught by his teacher. The Mountain Quaking Fist was an elementary rank god of war technique, and because it was complemented by the power of the earth from the Earth Lotus Supreme skill, its power was greatly boosted, and it could be activated instantly. Meanwhile, the Lightning Manipulation Technique was an immortal spell derived from the Thunder Essence cultivation method. It drew upon lightning from the void, and it required around 10 seconds to completely charge up. In other words, to release a mountain quaking lightning fist, he would need to charge for at least 10 seconds. Let's test the firepower first. Enlin's left hand's fingertips flashed with lightning as he clenched his right hand into a fist. Golden light enveloped his fist, emitting powerful fluctuations. The next step was to guide the lightning to his fist. During this process, it was necessary to control the ratio of energy, otherwise it would explode due to the imbalance of energy. Crackle, crackle. The blue lightning in the air crackled and slowly adhered to his fist. He could feel the collision and fusion of 2 different types of energy, and he was extremely excited. After the thunder and lightning mixed with the earth power of the mountain quaking fist, it turned into golden lightning. So handsome! Lin's breathing quickened. He was stunned by the golden lightning on his fist. After absorbing the divine lightning from the lightning manipulation technique, the power contained in his fist became extremely terrifying. However, the power was also on the verge of exploding, and it was time to strike. "Watch me, mountain-quaking lightning fist!" Lin yelled and smashed his fist forward. Boom! A terrifying power completely erupted. Lightning and golden light combined and exploded, engulfing everything in its surroundings. A terrifying area of golden lightning spread out like a ball, blasting everything within a 5-zhang radius into smithereens and charred them black. Lin, who bore the brunt of the explosion, spat out blood as he was sent flying. His right arm turned crimson red, as if it was about to split open. Ah! Ow ow ow! He rolled on the ground, grimacing in pain. "Lin, your immortal spell is so powerful. If an enemy of the spirit-nurturing stage were to take a direct hit from you, they would definitely be reduced to ashes." Su Xiaolan came over upon hearing the commotion and looked at Lin, who was rolling on the ground. "As expected of Big Brother, you've created such a terrifying immortal art yourself." Luo Zipping ran over with a jolt, and he spoke with an expression of admiration. Lin grimaced, but he didn't reply. Instead, he sat up and looked at his slightly cracked arm with lingering fear. So it turned out that he had invented a technique that dealt 1,000 damage to the enemy and 800 damage to himself? No. If he crippled an arm every time he used it, he definitely wouldn't admit that this was an immortal spell. There should be some areas that could be improved upon. In terms of energy coordination, he felt that it was already very well coordinated. The power of the combined immortal spell had also been greatly enhanced. If he really had to point out something, it would be the intent realm. Intent realm? That's right, I can integrate an intent realm into the immortal spell to make it more stable. Lin's eyes lit up, and he immediately started thinking about what intent realm he should integrate to make the immortal spell more stable. An intent realm that could simultaneously incorporate the mountain-quaking fist, which contained the power of earth, and the lightning manipulation technique, which contained the power of lightning. For some reason, he thought of the Dark Knight Monarch's darkness of origin. At that time, he was in a strange state of understanding. When facing the Dark Knight Monarch's most powerful technique, it could be said that he had seen through the intent realm of the technique with a single glance. The Darkness of Origin was an immortal spell that could annihilate all things and encompass all things at the same time. Combining the two characteristics of annihilation and encompassing all things, perhaps it could make the mountain-quaking lightning fist more powerful while stabilizing it. "Stay away from me, I'm going to try something else," Lin said nervously. Luo Zipping had an excited expression. "Big Brother and is going to create another immortal spell? This is a feast for our eyes." Hearing this, Su Xiaolan retreated a few steps worriedly and didn't say anything. In reality, combining two immortal spells and incorporating a new intent realm was already beyond the scope of improving an immortal spell. Perhaps it was just as Luo Zipping had said, this was already an attempt to create an immortal spell. Lin guided the lightning with his left hand, and a golden light erupted from his right fist again. When the lightning latched onto his fist, it underwent another qualitative change, and the energy within it also began to reach the brink of explosion. His eyes focused. It was time to integrate the intent realm. The scene of the sky transforming into boundless darkness and crashing toward the earth surfaced in his mind, and the true intent of the technique began to merge with his fist. The violent golden lightning was tinged with a hint of black, and it gradually quieted down. However, the power imbued within it also became even more suffocating. Even Lin himself felt a chill run down his spine, and he felt as if his fist had latched onto a ticking time bomb. "No. I have to get out of here." Mountain-quaking lightning fist. He was just about to unleash his fist when the air around him suddenly became sluggish, and the lightning and golden light actually began to recede slightly. Enlin's pupils contracted, and he immediately launched his fist forward. He had to make it in time. The golden fist was entwined with golden lightning, and black wisps of energy flowed within the fist, bringing with them two contradictory powers of annihilation and violence. They were like thin threads that pulled at the fist, causing it to shrink strangely. Heaven and earth instantly fell silent. Boom! A deafening explosion shook the heavens. The energy exploded 3 feet away from Enlin. The earth quaked, and the golden light shattered the ground. The lightning swept through the surroundings with an aura of annihilation, annihilating everything it came into contact with. Nearby, Dioscorea cancongensis and all the students looked toward a certain spot on the hillside, and they all drew in a sharp breath. A small mushroom cloud of lightning rose up from the ground, and a powerful shockwave carried dust and smoke into the surroundings. As for the culprit, Enlin, his figure had already been submerged in the mushroom cloud. Chapter 181. Enlin had successfully created his own immortal spell, and he named it the Nuclear Lightning Fist. This immortal spell was extremely powerful, but its side effects were also very obvious. If he didn't use it well, he would die. Thanks to the Nuclear Lightning Fist, he was bedridden for half a month. If he hadn't cultivated the evergreen technique, perhaps he would be lying on a bed filled with flowers right now. The mushroom cloud at the time was extremely powerful, and it left a very deep impression on the students. They all paid their utmost respect to Enlin, who had risked his life to create the immortal spell. Enlin's self-created immortal spell was also successfully recorded in Dioscorea cancongensis's classic negative teaching material, and it was widely sung in the celestial court. Enlin had learned of these glorious feats from Su Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan hadn't gone far at the time, and she was also injured by the nuclear lightning fist. After that, she took a picture of the charred Enlin with her camera. She even printed it out and placed it on Enlin's bedside for him to admire. The message she wanted to convey was self-evident. After Enlin woke up, he would fall into deep thought every time he looked at the picture of the charred black man. He felt that if he had thrown the punch earlier, he wouldn't have been injured by the explosion. However, after seeing the picture, he didn't dare to make a second attempt during this half a month of rest. Apart from some friends visiting him, Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiu would sing and dance in his room. Finally, on a sunny afternoon, he walked out of the treatment center with tears in his eyes. Phew! I'm alive again! Enlin opened his arms and embraced the sun. Congratulations, master! You can continue to court death now. A sweet voice sounded from his pocket. Enlin's lips twitched upon hearing this, and he lowered his head in embarrassment. After a period of photosynthesis, little Hong had already woken up. When he used the nuclear lightning fist, he forgot to take Little Red away. Thus, she successfully became a character who went through thick and thin with her master and was baptized by the cannon fire. Little Red's resentment towards her master couldn't be explained in a few words. Faced with Little Red's mockery, Enlin didn't dare to reply. He was afraid that Little Red would suddenly explode and destroy him in the name of the sun. At the same time, in a conference room of the school, Vice Principal Yuhua, who had thick eyebrows and big eyes, was sitting at a round table. 6 other university executives were also participating in this meeting with him. During the Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers, what do you think about the student representatives of the Celestial Court that were voted on by the university? Yuhua asked. Humph! What a joke! Enlin is only of the spirit-nurturing initial stage, yet he was elected with the highest number of votes. Isn't this a disgrace to our Celestial Court? Zhu Jingji of the Immortal Spell Department humphed coldly and spoke with dissatisfaction. I feel that student Enlin is fully deserving of this position. Have you all forgotten what he has done in the past year? No student in the Celestial Court is as outstanding as he is, Liu Yang of the Spell Formation Department said with a smile. He had high hopes for Enlin, but everyone knows that his power isn't something that he can control as he pleases. Strictly speaking, he is still of the spirit-nurturing initial stage. I'm afraid it's still a little inappropriate to have him become the head student representative. Nangong Chi of the Magic Treasure Department furrowed his brows slightly and continued, there are 3 student representatives in the Celestial Court. We can have Wang Xuanzhan as the head student representative and Enlin and Lu Qianhuan as normal representative. This arrangement isn't against the rules, and it's also more reasonable. Hearing this, the other 3 higher-ups also nodded slightly, clearly agreeing with Nangong Chi's suggestion. Just like that, the student representatives of the Celestial Court for the Tao Exchange Conference of the 4 Powers were officially decided. The 3 representatives were Wang Xuanzhan, Enlin, and Lu Qianhuan. Enlin returned to the school in high spirits and soon received this piece of good news. He was a little dumbfounded. Tao Exchange Conference of the 4 Powers? 3 student representatives? Representing the school for the conference? Hearing Enlin's rapid-fire questions, Su Xiaolan couldn't help but burst into laughter. Please, if it's just a conference, is there a need to hold a school-wide vote? Then what is this Tao Exchange Conference of the 4 Powers? Enlin was inexplicably elected as the student representative with the highest number of votes. Apparently, he had voted for him while he was recuperating from his illness. This kind of election made him extremely uneasy. Perhaps it was because of his fame. In any case, it couldn't be a good thing no matter how he thought about it. Su Xiaolan replied, the Tao Exchange Conference of the 4 Powers is a conference jointly held by the Celestial Court of the Kingdom of the 9 States, the Buddhist Kingdom of the Western Paradise, the Garden of Eden of the Holy Region, and the Hall of Creation of the Creation Realm. It's held once every 5 years, and the representatives of the younger generation of the 4 Powers participate in the conference to showcase the brilliance of the younger generation of the 4 Powers. There are also a variety of tests to be held. Hearing Su Xiaolan's explanation, Enlin buried his face in his hands. He suddenly wanted to return to his hospital room and become a salted fish. F***ck. There were other students of the spirit-nurturing final stage in the school apart from Lu Qianhuan, right? Why did they have to choose him? The other 3 powers were about the same level as the Celestial Court, so it wasn't hard to imagine that the cultivation bases of their representatives wouldn't be lower than spirit-nurturing final stage. Playing with these freaks, Enlin felt like he had a chance of winning in terms of looks. However, in terms of other aspects, he was really only suitable to be a bystander. Can I refuse? Enlin was a little tired. We've already announced it to the entire school, what do you think? There was a smile on Su Xiaolan's face. Seeing Enlin's expression, she was inexplicably amused. Enlin sat down on the ground dejectedly, his expression filled with despair. All right. Seeing Enlin's dejected expression, Su Xiaolan couldn't bear to see him like this again. Don't you still have Wang Xuanzhan and Lu Qianhuan to rely on? Don't be so pessimistic. Them? Enlin's face convulsed. Wang Xuanzhan was provoked by me once during the free-for-all battle. Will he really rely on me? As for Lu Qianhuan, I feel like she's even more unreliable than I am. The more Enlin thought about it, the more pessimistic he became. He could already foresee the exchange conference. One of them would be a lazy bum, one would be playing with his phone, and the other would be leading his 2 useless teammates to fight bravely. Sigh. It must be very embarrassing. Enlin, I heard you've recovered. A delicate cry sounded from afar. Enlin looked up to see an extremely beautiful woman running toward him. Her pink and white sailor outfit fluttered in the wind. Beneath her shoulder-length pink hair was a pair of purple eyes that were as bright as jewels. She held a phone in her small, fair hand as she waved excitedly at Enlin. Enlin, Sister Lu, what's the matter? Enlin braced himself and asked after Lu Qianhuan arrived in front of him. I'm here to do post-illness rehabilitation training with you. Lu Qianhuan replied in a straightforward manner. What kind of training? Unlin looked at the phone in her hand and a sense of unease welled up in his heart. Sure enough, Lu Qianhuan raised her phone and waved it around. If you sleep in the hospital room for too long, your brain and body won't be as nimble. Playing games with me can help your brain become more agile and your body become more coordinated. But didn't I already play games with you many times when I was in the hospital room? And Lin thought back to when he was completely powerless and how he used his bandaged fingers to tap on the phone's screen. Lu Qianhuan giggled at his words. I've already said that was pre-illness rehabilitation training. Now it's post-illness rehabilitation training. Saying this, she stuffed a phone into Enlin's hand without another word. Enlin. Chapter 182. One morning, Yao Xiu woke up early and tied her long hair into 2 cute ponytails. She looked at herself in the mirror without any makeup, but her face was still delicate and beautiful. She nodded in satisfaction and walked out of the room while humming a tune. Today, she was going to practice Shui Qianqians. I seem to have seen you somewhere. After spending some time with her idol, she began to understand her idol's taste. She successfully switched from My Motherland to some popular songs. Yao Xiu walked on the bluestone path with light step. If she wanted to practice singing, it would be better to practice in a place with a more beautiful environment. Just like that, she arrived at her usual spot and found an unfamiliar figure. A monk with delicate features, dressed in a kasaya, was sitting quietly on a boulder. Huh! It's a monk. Yao Xiu tilted her head slightly. In her memory, there was no such thing as a monk in the school. Suddenly, she came to a realization and her eyes lit up. That's right, the Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers is about to begin. The Buddhist Kingdom of the Western Paradise is also sending a representative. This monk should be the representative or a follower of the Buddhist kingdom. If that's the case, then he is the enemy of her idol. Yao Xiu's sense of responsibility as a fan was burning. She felt that it was time to help Enlin scout out the enemy. The monk's eyes were tightly shut, as if he was thinking or meditating. I'll use a manual alarm first. Yao Xiu stroked her chin and made a decision. She walked to the monk's side and looked at the sky in the distance. She slowly began to sing. So happiness seems to be ignited wherever I go. Just like when you were in the class next to mine. People buried their unspeakable love in the soil. They stood by and watched as others tried their best to distance themselves. I heard your voice and hit a heart that didn't dare to see. The clear voice and the pleasant tune made the monk frown slightly. Yao Xiu's delicate face lit up when she saw this. She continued to sing. Hee hee, you sit and fight, I'll sing my song. Finally, the monk opened his eyes and looked at the girl in green. There was no anger on his face. Instead, he put his palms together and bowed slightly. Then, he walked away alone. Hey, monk, why are you leaving just like that? Yao Xiu couldn't help but say anxiously when she saw the monk leave without a second word. The monk looked at Yao Xiu in confusion and replied, Benefactor, I feel that meditating here will disturb your singing. That's why I chose to leave. Not at all, not at all. You can continue meditating here, Yao Xiu said with a smile. The corner of the monk's mouth twitched. What did she mean by she didn't disturb him? Did he really have to say that it was the female benefactor who disturbed his meditation that was why he chose to leave? By the way, may I know the name of this esteemed monk? Yao Xiu continued to make friendly conversation. The monk put his palms together and lowered his eyebrows. I don't deserve to be called an eminent monk. My Buddhist name is Qingji. Oh hello, my name is Yao Xiu. With that, Yao Xiu generously extended her hand. Qingji stared blankly at the slender hand that was stretching toward him. His body also shrunk back a little as he said, I'm sorry, Master told me not to get close to women. Huh? Shaking hands means getting close to a woman? Yao Xiu's eyes widened in disbelief. A faint blush appeared on Qingji's face as he averted his gaze. It wasn't that he hadn't seen beautiful women before. It was just that he had never had physical contact with another woman before, so he instinctively wanted to refuse. He had cultivated in the Luli stone forest for 20 years and had a pure heart. However, it was precisely because his heart was like a blank piece of paper that it was easily tainted by worldly desires. Yao Xiu came to her senses after being refused. She clasped her hands behind her back and looked Qing Ji up and down with interest. Qing Ji felt a little uncomfortable being stared at like this. He bowed slightly and said, "Benefactor, if there's nothing else, this humble monk will be taking his leave." "Wait, can I ask you, who are the representatives of your Buddhist kingdom?" Yao Xiu asked with a fawning expression. Qing Ji only wanted to leave as soon as possible, so he immediately replied, "It's this humble monk, junior brother Qing Yan, and junior brother Qing Xian." Yao Xiu sucked in a deep breath upon hearing this. She stared at the handsome monk in front of her and exclaimed in shock, "Are you serious?" Qing Ji put his palms together and said seriously, "A monk doesn't lie." "Then what's your cultivation base like?" Yao Xiu felt that Qing Ji was easier to talk to and continued to ask. "This." A troubled expression appeared on Qing Ji's face. Yao Xiu smiled. "I'll let you go if you tell me." Qing Ji immediately replied, "I'm half-step soul formation stage and my 2 junior brothers are spirit nurturing final stage." Yao Xiu nodded in satisfaction. It looked like her school was going to be in the bag again during this Tao exchange conference. "Benefactor, this humble monk will be taking his leave." Qing Ji was just about to leave when a crisp voice sounded from behind him. "Hey Qing Ji!" Qing Ji turned around. "What is it?" "Don't keep calling me female benefactor. I have a name after all. From now on, just call me Miss Xiu." The woman in green smiled sweetly. Under the sunlight, her smile appeared especially beautiful and sweet. Miss Xiu?" Qing Ji's heart stirred slightly as he looked at her. Yao Xiu nodded with a smile upon hearing Qing Ji's words. For some reason, Qing Ji's heart was no longer as calm as before. He became flustered and nodded at Yao Xiu. Then, he immediately withdrew his gaze and walked away in a disheveled manner. Yao Xiu covered her mouth and chuckled lightly upon seeing the monk's actions. "This monk looks so dumb. He's definitely no match for my idol." She had originally wanted to tease the monk a little, but seeing how obedient he was, she couldn't bring herself to continue teasing him and could only allow him to leave. "All right, I won't practice my singing today. I have to tell senior brother and Lin about this as soon as possible so that he can be mentally prepared." Yao Xiu was a little excited as she walked down the mountain. She imagined how Lin would look at her after hearing this news. The more she thought about it, the more excited she became. At the same time, a gigantic arc broke through the clouds and flew toward them from afar. The arc was light yellow in color and had a simple yet majestic feel to it. Wings of light that spanned over 1,000 feet flapped on either side of the arc. The entire arc was enveloped in a white glow and appeared ethereal and holy. From another direction, a silvery white disk also slowly flew toward them. Its outer shell was hard and had a metallic sheen to it. Lightning crackled around its underside. Those who didn't know better would think that it was some kind of mechanical object. However, it was actually a gigantic living creature. Within the disk, there were treants with roots all over their bodies, rock golems with flames emanating from their chests, and strange creatures that were plucking fruits from their bodies and savoring them with relish. They came from the creation realm and were prodigies of the Hall of Creation. These creatures looked up at the floating continent that had already appeared in their field of vision with excited expressions on their faces. The final winner of this Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers would definitely be them. Chapter 183. When Yao Xiu found Lin's Zhuge had just been blasted to death by No. 7 Luban's nuclear bomb. The shockwave from the explosion had even destroyed the large crystal in the base. Lin had lost the game again. While the two of them were having some free time, Yao Xiu told Enlin everything she knew about the Buddhist kingdom's 3 representatives. Thank goodness there are no soul formation stage prodigies in the Buddhist kingdom, so I feel a little less pressured. Enlin heaved a sigh of relief and turned to Yao Xiu with a grateful expression. Sister Yao Xiu, you really did a great job this time. Yao Xiu's face instantly flushed with excitement after being praised by Enlin. She was so excited that she almost suffocated. My God! God praised me, God praised me! Yao Xiu was intoxicated by her happiness, but Lu Qianhuan pursed her lips in disdain. I don't care if my opponent is a spirit-nurturing stage or a soul-formation stage cultivator, as long as he competes in League of Valor, I'll definitely win. Enlin grimaced upon hearing this. You're living in a dream, Lu Qianhuan thought to herself. For a cheat like her who changed her character to Long Outyin every single time, if Enlin could find a representative from another power to compete with her in this game, he would livestream himself eating sh*t. Enlin sighed with emotion for a moment before continuing to play League of Valor and League of Legends. Why did he play this game with Lu Qianhuan? It was a long story. He wasn't a masochist, but he discovered that playing this game really could train his thinking. Think about it, if your opponent is an enemy with extremely powerful natural resources, how can you mount a powerful counterattack when you're lacking in skills and technique? This is a way to train your thinking to fight above your rank. In the game, you have to use your intelligent analysis and nimble hands to accumulate battle experience and train your thinking to fight above your rank. The valuable experience and thinking accumulated in the game can be transferred to the real world, allowing you to fight above your rank even in the cultivation world. Moreover, you can cultivate while playing the game and train your ability to multitask, which is also a great benefit. 2 hours are up, here are the spirit stones. Lu Qianhuan realized that time was up, so she took out 1,000 spirit stones from her storage ring and handed them to Enlin. Enlin accepted the spirit stones happily. Spirit stones were also part of the reason. He had to pay for playing with her, Tycoon, and felt that if he spent his spirit stones so extravagantly, he would one day run out of spirit stones. Therefore, he also worked hard to create some income-generating project. The Tao Exchange Conference of the 4 Powers was starting in 2 days. As the organizer of the event, the United University of Cultivation had already given all of its students a break. Enlin conservatively estimated that if he played games with Lu Qianhuan for the next 2 days and didn't have much rest, he would be able to earn around 20,000 spirit stones. Even for some large cultivation clans, this reward was considered a very large sum of money. However, senior sister Lu didn't even blink and took it out. Enlin even suspected that her family owned a spirit mine. Otherwise, how could they have so much money for her to squander? Lin Qianhuan Lin Tian Qianhuan Lan's Lin's Qi. However, Lu Qianhuan Lin didn't give him a direct answer. Instead, she said that for some reason, her relationship with her family wasn't very good. Apart from having a lot of money, she really didn't have anything else. So, Anlin Jr. brother, you have to play games with me more often. Enlin didn't believe her **t, and he couldn't be bothered to ask. He just wanted to be a sugar mommy. Just as he was playing the game, a loud explosion suddenly erupted in the distance. Huh? Is someone fighting? Isn't fighting prohibited in the university? Enlin looked toward the source of the explosion curiously and saw a black sword intent shooting into the sky. Sigh, what's there to see? It's just a small fight, let's continue playing. Lu Qianhuan's eyes lit up, and she killed Enlin's character again, while he was distracted. Enlin was still looking in the direction of the battle, and a familiar feeling welled up in his heart. Sister Lu, excuse me, I think there's someone I know over there. Saying this, he leaped onto his brick and flew toward the battle. Hey! This round isn't over yet. Lu Qianhuan stomped her foot angrily before flying behind Enlin on her 6-feathered staff and yelling in a loud voice. Boom! The black sword intent slashed down, but it was dispersed by a rock golem whose chest was burning with flames. The power of the punch pierced through the sword intent and transformed into a gust of wind that crashed into the black-robed male, sending him flying through the air as he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Humph! You dare to challenge me with this level of power? Spirit nurturing initial stage is already this weak. The unlin you speak of is about the same level as you." The rock golem looked disdainfully at the black-robed male who had collapsed to the ground. "Big brother, are you all right?" A delicate and pretty girl in a green dress ran over and helped the black-robed male up. These two people were none other than Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiao. Yao Mingxi clutched his chest and looked coldly at the rock golem before him. "He, Unlin is about the same level as me? For someone like you, he doesn't even need to lift a finger to turn you into dregs. Humph! Let's see how long you can keep your mouth shut." The rock golem howled as it pounced toward Yao Mingxi again. Yao Mingxi pushed Yao Xiao aside. Facing the rock golem's overwhelming aura, he didn't retreat even half a step. Instead, he raised his sword and charged toward the rock golem. "Big brother!" Yao Xiao's eyes were bloodshot as she yelled. She knew that Yao Mingxi was putting on a strong front. If they continued to fight like this, Yao Mingxi would definitely be severely wounded. However, Yao Mingxi still charged forward without any regard for his own safety. If it wasn't for the fact that the rock golem knew that Enlin was one of the representatives of the Celestial Court and had slandered Enlin in public, Yao Mingxi wouldn't have fought so desperately. The other spectating students also gritted their teeth as they glared at the rock golem. Their cultivation bases were far inferior to the rock golem's. Otherwise, they would definitely have beaten it up as well. "Stop!" Enlin flew over on his brick and immediately yelled when he saw the scene below. He discovered that Yao Mingxi was already in a very poor state. If they continued to fight, Yao Mingxi would definitely be severely wounded. Grow, grow, grow! The black brick continued to expand until it came crashing down toward the rock golem with the weight of Mount Tai. The rock golem immediately threw a punch at the descending black brick. Boom! A terrifying shockwave swept out for over 100 feet. The ground seemed to be unable to withstand the force of the collision and began to cave in and crack open. Ah! The black brick didn't budge in the slightest, but the rock golem began to wail in agony. Its fist cracked as if it had struck something extremely hard. Senior Enlin. Yao Mingxi shuddered at the sight of Enlin descending from the sky. He stared blankly at the figure in front of him. Yao Xiao covered her mouth in surprise and elation. All the spectating students also cheered at the sudden arrival of Enlin as they looked at him with scorching eyes. "Yao Mingxi, what's going on?" Enlin turned toward the exhausted man with a curious expression. Fighting without permission was against the school rules. Yao Mingxi should be aware of this. Yao Mingxi glared at the rock golem in anger. "After this idiot found out that you're a representative of the Celestial Court and that you're a spirit-nurturing initial stage cultivator, he said that the Celestial Court has no one else and chose a piece of trash. I just happened to hear this, so what's the point of wasting words? I'll just *CK him up?" Enlin grimaced. Fine, he finally understood. Sure enough, a foreign creature that didn't know the truth and a diehard fan could cause intense sparks when they collided. This matter had arisen because of him, but it would be a bit difficult to resolve it. The rock golem pushed the black brick away and glared at Enlin. "You're that piece of trash, Enlin?" "Enlin, fine. He's already been scolded to this extent." Enlin wasn't a clay bodhisattva. He decided to take the blame. "Heh, I'm your dad, Enlin." Enlin grinned and drew his evil-slaying sword. Chapter 184. You've got guts. Let's see how long you can keep up your arrogance. The rock golem roared, and his body pounced toward Enlin with boundless might. It was renowned for its explosive temper in the Hall of Creation. Now that someone dared to provoke it, it was going to teach them what pain was. Lu Qianhuan's eyes lit up when she saw the rock golem. Wow! What a perfect cosplay! "Mo Fei, is that you?" She couldn't help but want to unleash a combo attack on the rock golem. However, she was afraid that she would interrupt Lin's flexing, so she resisted the urge. Although the rock golem was irascible and reckless, it was still a spirit-nurturing final stage cultivator. Its pouncing gave Lin a lot of pressure. Lin didn't dare to underestimate the rock golem, so he used his divine inspection technique and wind spirit from the get-go. The rock golem's rock punch tore through the air. Rings of wind revolved around Lin's feet as he stepped lightly on the ground. He quickly turned his body, and the rock punch brushed past his shoulder. It was also at this moment that the evil-slaying sword became enveloped in white streams of wind. Like a pure white crescent moon, Lin slashed toward the rock golem's arm. Boom! The seemingly indestructible rock arm collided with the evil-slaying sword, and energy rippled outwards. The spectating students stumbled back as if they had been struck by a heavy blow. Immediately afterward, the rock arm began to crack and shatter. Boiling red lava seeped out from the cracks on the arm. The rock golem howled and stumbled back. You can actually injure me." It couldn't believe that a spirit-nurturing initial stage student could unleash such a terrifying sword technique. Lin shook his sword in disappointment. The rock golem's skin and flesh were a bit thicker than he had expected, but it wasn't a big deal. At least he managed to injure it. Seeing Lin injure the rock golem with a single strike, Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiu's eyes lit up with excitement. They felt like they had vented their frustrations, and they were extremely excited. The spectating students also began to cheer loudly. "What Hall of Creation representative? It's all because of God and sword." Godin still held back. Otherwise, he could have finished him off with a single finger. The important thing is communication. If he used his full strength right from the start, no one would be able to play with Godin anymore. Lin had a calm expression as he listened to the discussions around him, but the stone man was both shocked and furious. Again. The stone man roared and charged at Lin again. This time, red flames erupted from its body and enveloped its surroundings. Its movement speed increased explosively once again, and even its aura became even more majestic. Lin frowned slightly. He did not expect the stone man to have no intention of stopping after suffering a loss. "Stop!" A loud shout came from the sky again. A white flying sword descended from the sky and stabbed into the ground. A powerful wind pressure was released from the sword, causing the stone man who was rushing over to freeze. Looking at this familiar scene, Lin's eyelids twitched. He recalled the scene when he fought against Liu Debao not long after he entered the university. As expected, a man in a blue robe descended from the sky. Then, he flashed a token to everyone and said solemnly, "I'm a member of the university law enforcement team. Fighting on campus is an extremely vile act. Are the two of you the ones fighting?" The man in the blue robe turned toward Lin and the stone man as he spoke. His expression shifted when he saw the stone man, and his lips twitched when he saw Lin. F***ck, why does it have to be him? This has nothing to do with senior student Lin. I was the one who started this battle, and senior student Lin was only fighting to protect me. Yao Mingxi yelled anxiously. He could not allow his idol to be implicated because of him. "You can't capture Godin. This stone man was clearly the one who slandered him first." "That's right, creatures like him should be taught a lesson. Yang Xian from Class 1, 4th year. I recognize you. If you dare to capture Godin, don't even think about pursuing Sister Qinwen," a beautiful girl yelled. The man in the blue robe by the name of Yang Xian felt a headache coming on as he looked at the enraged crowd. He knew that this would happen the moment he saw Lin. Sigh. If only Lin was still that backdoor entrant from before, Yang Xian sighed in his heart. On one hand, he owed Lin a favor, but on the other hand, he had to fulfill his duty. As a member of the university law enforcement team, he knew that he had to uphold his duty. After all, the fight between the two of them had already become a reality. As for the reason behind it, they could investigate further after they were arrested. Yang Xian turned toward Enlin, as if to see what else he had to say. Enlin smiled faintly. This fight started because the stone man slandered me first, and I got into a fight because I didn't like it. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Yang Xian nodded and said in a clear voice, "In accordance with the relevant regulations of the United University of Cultivation, the two of you are now under arrest. You will be sent to the campus detention room for 3 days." "Why are you arresting Senior Enlin? If you want to arrest someone, then arrest me. I was the one who attacked first." Yao Mingxi yelled at Yang Xian with bloodshot eyes. Yang Xian turned a deaf ear to this as he silently cuffed Enlin's hands. He knew that even if he arrested Yao Mingxi, Enlin wouldn't be released, so it was better to feign ignorance and arrest one less person. Enlin also understood this. Rather than arresting both him and Yao Mingxi at the same time, it was better to let him bear the blame alone. It was only 3 days anyways. Wah! Big brother, who would have thought that Senior Enlin would do this for you? Yao Xiao was so moved that tears streamed down her face. She was completely touched by her idol's selflessness. Yao Mingxi's body trembled as he stared blankly at Enlin's departing figure. How could he not know the reason behind Enlin's actions? At this moment, he could only clench his fists and bury this regret and gratitude deep in his heart. The surrounding students were extremely indignant as they watched Enlin's departing figure, but they also understood his choice. "Yang Xian, just you wait, I'm going to tell Sister Qin Wen what happened. You're done for." Yang Xian, who was escorting the rock golem and Enlin away, stumbled and almost fell to the ground upon hearing this. His voice was soon drowned out by other voices of support. "As expected of my idol, Enlin is too reliable. Godin, we all support you. Good luck, you'll be a hero again when you come out." All of a sudden, all of the students applauded. The thunderous applause traveled into Enlin's ears. Enlin turned to the rock golem beside him with a mocking smile. "See that? What do you mean by losing a competition and losing a friend?" "Roar!" The rock golem let loose an enraged roar and glowered at Enlin, and the flames in its chest burned even brighter. Enlin shrugged triumphantly. He was very happy, not only because he had crushed the rock golem in all aspects, but also because he was going to be detained for 3 days. The Tao Exchange Conference was going to be held in 2 days, and he was going to be detained for 3 days. This meant that, if he had the chance, he wouldn't have to participate in that *T exchange conference. Awesome! At the same time, on a tree not far from them, a golden-eyed owl spat out a mouthful of saliva. "Tui! Hong Do, that idiot! He really doesn't rest no matter where he goes. Don't make a big deal out of this. I have to hurry and report this to the Lion King." The owl stared at the rock golem walking further and further away. It was both exasperated and furious. It shouldn't have let him out for a stroll in the first place. After strolling for a while, he ended up staying in the detention room. What the hell is this? With this thought, the owl sighed again and spread its wings before flying into the sky. Chapter 185. Within the detention room of the university, Enlin received a very sad piece of news. Seeing as he and Hong Do were both representatives of different forces, they would only be detained for 2 days. After 2 days, he still had to participate in the Tao Exchange Conference. He sat on the ground dejectedly after receiving this news. He felt like he couldn't muster up any energy. Across from him, Hong Do cackled like a tractor. "Cuckoo. When I get out of here, I'll be sure to teach you a lesson during the Tao Exchange Conference." Both of them were extremely powerful, so they were detained in different rooms. Otherwise, another battle would have ensued. Enlin couldn't be bothered with Hong Do's taunts. There was no point in arguing with him. After a while, Enlin's fans brought him all types of food. He gorged himself in front of Hong Do, and Hong Do could only look on helplessly. There was no food provided during the 2 days of detention, so he wouldn't starve to death anyway. This braised chicken wing is so delicious. It's fragrant and crispy, and the meat is delicious. This green barn mountain beef is also quite good. It's chewy and it's medium well. And Lin spoke as he ate, and the aroma of his food wafted through the detention room. Hong Do's eyes glowed like torches as he stared at the food around Lin. He swallowed before speaking in a rumbling voice. Do you think you can provoke me like this? My heart is as hard as a rock. Lin shot a glance at Hong Do and chuckled coldly. Hard as a rock? You have the gall to say your heart is as hard as a rock? A scorching inferno erupted in Hong Do's chest upon hearing this. Who did you say would explode with a single spark? Lin's lips twitched. F***ck, you don't have to be so cooperative. Are you a pig? Sigh. I can't believe I'm being detained because of an idiot like you. He shook his head and heaved a remorseful sigh. How dare you insult me? I'll beat you to death right now. Hong Do's eyes widened, and the rocks around his body began to crackle. Come and beat me then. If you don't, you're my son. If you do, you're my grandson. Lin yawned as he looked at Hong Do with disdain. A thought suddenly occurred to him. If he fought again, he would be detained for a longer period of time. How dare you? Hong Do flared up upon being provoked like this. Scorching red flames burst forth from its body and melted the metal poles in its way as it made its way toward Lin like an ancient fiend celestial. Haha, looks like you're planning to be my grandson. Lin laughed triumphantly. Hong Do flared up upon hearing this. Of his voice was a loud of a roar. Lotus karmic flames. Lin didn't back down either. He summoned lightning with his left hand and golden light with his right. Mountain quaking lightning fist. This was a simplified version of the nuclear lightning fist. It was a self-created immortal technique that did not contain the darkness of origin concept. Even so, its power was still extremely terrifying. A muscular man patted Yang Xian's shoulder and consoled him. Student Yang Xian, as the captain of the Academy Enforcement Team, you handled this matter very well. A well-built man patted Yang Xian's shoulder and comforted. Student Yang Xian, as the captain of the campus law enforcement team, you've handled this matter well. A well-built man patted Yang Xian's shoulder. Student Yang Xian, as the captain of the university enforcement team, you handled this matter very well. No matter who you are, you have to follow the rules on campus. I'm sure student Qinwen understands this, so you don't need to worry. If Qinwen could understand, then he wouldn't have changed their plan to go out and admire the moon tonight into a plan to buy chicken drumsticks and deliver supper to Lin. Let's go and see Lin and Hong Do. Li Yong smiled and said to Yang Xian, I hope they'll realize their mistakes and bury the hatchet and get along with each other peacefully. Yang Xian nodded. They're both representatives of the four powers, so they definitely know what to do. Perhaps they'll become good friends after fighting in the detention room. As the two of them spoke, they smiled knowingly and started walking side by side towards a white building. That was where the detention room was located. Boom! Red flames soared into the sky and blasted the roof of the white building away. Golden lightning pierced through the sky like a sharp sword, causing the earth to tremble and a deafening explosion to ring out. The two of them stared blankly at the mushroom cloud in front of them with their mouths agape. They were unable to come to their senses for a long time. Department head. I feel like there's a very familiar energy in that explosion, Yang Xian stammered. It's not one familiar energy, it's two familiar energies, Li Yong corrected. Yang Xian wiped the sweat from his forehead. Are they going to tear down the detention room? Boom. Another violent explosion erupted and cracks began to appear around the building. Yes, they're tearing down the building. Li Yong nodded with a solemn expression. Lin sat on a chair with his face covered in soot. His hair had been singed into curls by the flames. He looked nervously at the middle-aged man in front of him, unsure of what to do. Beside Enlin, the rock golem wiped away the red lava flowing from its body and also looked around with a shameful expression. Standing in front of them was Vice Principal Yu Hua. Although there wasn't any anger on his face, there was an invisible pressure that made Enlin and Hong Do feel uneasy. "Come on, which one of you will speak first?" Vice Principal Yu Hua asked in a cold voice. Hong Do was the one who attacked first. Enlin immediately replied. Hong Do's chest tightened upon hearing this. "You insulted him first. A gentleman uses his tongue, not his fists, haven't you heard of that?" Enlin replied with a strong sense of righteousness. "You?" Hong Do's chest exploded with flames again, and he was struck by the urge to beat the crap out of the male next to him. He wasn't good with words, and he always lost to Enlin when it came to verbal sparring. Now that he couldn't attack, he was extremely frustrated. Vice Principal Yu Hua massaged his brows. He felt like if he kept the two of them together, they might start fighting again, so he decided to separate them. "Hong Do, return to your faction first. As for compensation, I'll discuss it with the Lion King," Yu Hua instructed. "Yes." Hong Do nodded. "Enlin, you go back as well," Yu Hua continued. Enlin's eyes widened in disbelief. "You're letting us go just like that? Aren't you going to lock us up for a few more days?" Yu Hua glared at him. "Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. If you cause trouble for me again, I'll teach you a lesson." All of a sudden, Enlin felt a suffocating aura wash over him. He immediately nodded like a chicken pecking at grains, and he had no intention of disobeying. "Remember this, if you continue to fight, I'll immediately disqualify you from the Dao discussion." Yu Hua warned the two of them again. Hong Do nodded with a solemn expression. Enlin's eyes lit up, and he looked at Hong Do with a thoughtful expression. "And you'll be fined 100,000 spirit stones," Yu Hua added. The light in Enlin's eyes dimmed. Chapter 186. In any case, Enlin went back in a daze. He had fought 2 battles with Hong Do and was completely exhausted. He didn't have the energy to continue being Lu Qianhuan's mistress, so he went back to his room and slept. The next day, a group of people strolled around the campus, attracting countless gazes and creating quite a stir. All of them had smooth and delicate skin, blue eyes, long and pointy ears, and extremely handsome features. They even had beautiful white wings on their back. Most importantly, they could even glow. A faint holy glow emanated from their bodies, making them appear as if they were divine messengers blessed by the heavens. Countless students on the campus of Xiuxian United University turned their attention to this group of people as they discussed spiritedly among themselves. "Wow, look at those guys, they're so handsome. The women are also beautiful. I feel like they're from an idol group. I've heard that the Lightwing clan of the Garden of Eden is blessed by the heavens. Looks like it's true. Just their looks alone are enough to make people envious." In contrast to the awe of the passers-by, these guests from the holy paradise had gentle expressions and behaved naturally. They only maintained a certain distance from others and didn't act arrogant to the point of rejecting others. Within a small building in the White Wing School District. "Big Brotherin, there's something good to see, woof!" Dabai burst through the window and spoke excitedly. It's so early in the morning, can you be a bit more gentle?" Enlin complained with sleepy eyes. "Big Brotherin, you're wrong, it's already noon." Dabai slapped Enlin's face with his paw. Enlin was just about to say that he could sleep for the entire day if Dabai didn't come to disturb him, but a huge paw immediately flew toward him. Slap, slap, slap. Enlin was instantly enraged and jumped up. "What's going on?" A group of birdmen came. "They're all beautiful, with big breasts and perky butt." Dabai gave him a knowing smile. Enlin. Thus, he leaped onto Dabai's back and soared into the sky. A dozen or so members of the Lightwing clan were walking along the campus with relaxed expressions on their faces. However, they were walking in a fixed direction. August, do you think that Enlin is really in the White Wing School District? A woman in a white robe asked in a clear and ethereal voice. The handsome man who was walking at the front nodded. He took out a piece of white paper. On it was Enlin's detailed address and picture. If he is not at home, we will wait at his door. We will definitely be able to meet him today. Putting everything else aside, this Enlin is quite pleasing to the eye. The woman looked at the photo on the paper and smiled. The students on the side of the road couldn't take their eyes off the girl when they saw her beautiful and pure smile. Surely, restrain yourself when the time comes. Don't be a love-struck fool, August said with an unchanged expression. Shirley pursed her lips and didn't say anything. She thought to herself, isn't this August a little too controlling? Even when he's looking at a man, he has to restrict him. Is there any law in the world? In the air, Dubai had an excited expression. Follow the scent, they are right in front of us, woof. Enlin grimaced. Should he praise Dubai for his sharp nose? Immediately afterward, they arrived above the group of Light Wing clan members and began to survey them. This is the Light Wing clan? My God, they really are glowing! Enlin exclaimed in surprise. That's not the point. The point is, don't you realize that their figures are all very good, woof? Dubai stuck out his tongue as he stared down at the group of women below him with his large, watery eyes. Enlin looked down at the women below him. Some of them were wearing light white dresses, revealing their snow-white shoulders and sexy collarbones. Some of them were a little loose, and one could even see their snow-white breasts rippling violently. The man and dog both inhaled deeply and followed the Light Wing clan members in the air. August, the person riding the dog above us seems to be following us, Shirley suddenly said. August nodded. I noticed that a long time ago. However, this is the territory of the Celestial Court, so they probably wouldn't dare to do anything rash. A faint blush appeared on Shirley's face, and she said in a soft voice, but I can't shake the feeling that they're already acting rashly. Their gazes are acting rashly, huh? August faltered for a moment before coming back to his senses and looking up. As soon as their gazes met, Dubai's face immediately twisted as he looked up at the clouds in the sky. Enlin also instantly withdrew his gaze and pretended to look around at the scenery in a natural manner. August. When the man and dog turned their gazes back down, Enlin suddenly felt that something was amiss. He asked curiously, Dubai, why do I feel like someone's missing? Dubai's eyes widened, and he stuck out his tongue in excitement. No one's missing. Beautiful women with big breasts and perky buttocks. Not a single one is missing. Oh! Enlin scratched his head. A terrifying aura suddenly erupted from behind him. Dubai's body trembled, and he and Enlin both turned around at the same time. They saw a man with a pair of white wings spread open, and a dazzling light erupted from his body. He clasped his hands together in the air, and a white light swirled like a vortex as an extremely terrifying energy converged. Enlin and Dubai were both extremely shocked upon seeing this. They knew that they were about to be screwed. Big Brother Angel, this is a misunderstanding! Enlin yelled in an attempt to salvage the situation. The man chuckled coldly. Divine punishment, white spinning heavenly pillar. The white vortex dissipated, and immediately afterward, a pillar of light descended from the sky with a boundless might. Boom! The powerful force collided head-on with Enlin and Dubai. The pure energy contained within the pillar of light caused them to fall to the ground, and the ground beneath them even cracked and shattered. Woof, so scary. Dubai crawled up from the rubble and shook his body. Enlin also felt like his entire body was about to fall apart. He crawled up from the ground and dusted himself off before unleashing a light breeze technique to blow away the dust around him. After blowing away the dust, he found that he had been surrounded. All of the Light Wing clan cultivators were gathered around him. All of their expressions were frosty, and some of them had even pulled out their weapons. Do you have anything else to say? A man walked out with a cold expression. Even though everyone knew what was going on, they still decided to give them a chance to repent. This is all a misunderstanding, listen to my explanation. Unlin was surrounded by many powerful beings, but he still forced himself to calm down and speak in a calm voice. Young Xian, what's there to say? We're just carrying out official duties, so tell them not to interfere, woof. Dabai's expression became ferocious. Young Xian? Unlin faltered for a moment before coming to his senses, and he immediately praised Dabai. He clasped his hands behind his back as he spoke in a calm voice. My name is Yang Xian, and I'm the captain of the university enforcement team. Seeing the expressions of some of the Light Wing clan cultivators change, he continued, This dog is my steed. I heard that all of you were going to walk around the university, and I was afraid that something might happen, so I specially patrolled the area. Please don't take offense. If I've disturbed any of you, I'll leave right away. Saying this, he mounted onto Dabai and waved at the Light Wing clan cultivators in a friendly manner before preparing to leave. It had to be said that Unlin's excuse was extremely perfect. Even though everyone had their suspicions, his identity as the captain of the enforcement team made it difficult for them to question him. Shirley blinked her bright eyes as she stared at Unlin. He looked very familiar. August, who had just returned from attacking Unlin, took out the piece of paper and compared it repeatedly. Finally, he couldn't help but ask, Unlin? Unlin and Dabai both shuddered. You're Unlin, right? August asked excitedly as he stood in front of them. Unlin's lips twitched as he looked at August. Why do you say I'm Unlin? August raised the piece of paper vertically and faced it toward Unlin. Look, it's exactly the same. Unlin and Dabai shuddered again upon seeing the photo. It was exactly the same. This was F*** King Awkward.